Good afternoon. Welcome to Soundtracks with Birdman. Today, starting, I guess, a new series, if everyone is agreeable to it. Erik Woods and Ian Clark and I are going to sit around and discuss film music. I brought up the idea of starting with Batman film music, but wherever the conversation goes, it's up to us and the viewers. So if you have a question, something you'd like to know, if you want to pick any of our brains, drop a question in the chat below. But how are you today, Mr. Erik?
Can't complain. It's Monday. Could be
Monday.
crappier, but I'm all right. How are you guys doing?
Raring to get started on this. I just want to talk films and film music.
I'm with you.
Always a good day to do that.
Yeah.
In theory, I was cutting the front yard today, but it hasn't happened. I did pay the water bill though, so
we live exciting lives.
Wow.
I went to pay it, and the lady was like, "Oh, well, you have a credit." I'm like, "I don't think you're looking at the right account." And she's like, "No, you have a $20 credit." I'm like, "You sent me an $80 bill like last week." She's like, "Well, I don't see that," and I'm like, "Well, I don't trust you. Have $100." I do not want to get home and find a note on the front door saying, "We turned your water off, loser."
Yeah.
That just costs more money.
Yes, it does. So, did you get any soundtracks today? Like, it seems like you get a million soundtracks a day. So, are we? Well, you gonna open them? Come on, or are you gonna do that another show?
I was gonna save them for later.
Right.
You're to blame for some of these. One of these is Ant-Man 2 on LP, and then of course I got Ant-Man 1 on CD last week.
Did you finally listen to it?
Not yet.
Okay.
I got a John Williams compilation CD from Great Britain, and it's been in the CD player in the car, and I just haven't taken it out. I've been enjoying it.
Which one is that?
Let me
Is that
tell
the
you
one the
exactly.
LSO released like last year or 2 years ago, or is it something else?
This is just like a straight up. We're just going to rip some tracks that already exist and slap them on the CD. The mixing on some of the tracks is it's not consistent. I guess that's the best way to put it.
Okay.
Do you know which orchestra it is?
Whatever did the original soundtracks, to me, it just looks like they just picked. Like when we used to make mixtapes back in the day.
Yeah. Is it a legit release, or is it like some shady bootleg?
It's got an UPC code on it.
Well, I could show you a few bootlegs with UPC codes on it.
John Williams Filmworks. That's the title of it.
No, that's not what I'm thinking. Do you have the front? You have the cover?
Yeah.
Oh boy, I don't know what that is. I have never heard of that.
It's apparently only in Great Britain, and it's on Discogs.
Filmworks, 1997. Yeah.
1998.
Universal. Oh, okay.
It's an EMI Records number. It says.
Okay. Yeah, that's.
It
must be all of their stuff.
You think it's a legit CD?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I would think so.
I paid $10 for it with shipping.
Yeah, but you're right. It's something that you could probably put together yourself. I know. We all could. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they give different years for, like, there's another one called John Williams Filmworks from 95, and it's an MCA compilation, but it's 17 tracks. Huh. Really interesting. Some of these compilations and how they get certain rights and whatnot. So,
yeah, it's almost all Universal films, but it's got the Raiders March on it, and it's got the Superman March, and neither of those are Universal.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, I must admit, you're mentioning Superman there. In preparation for tonight, obviously talking about Batman, I listened to Superman most of the weekend. So,
well, I mean, like, think about the time when Superman came out, like the time between Superman and Batman. and what was in between that time. You know, could you imagine like Iron Man coming out and then for them to wait 10, 12 years for the next superhero movie to come out? And that's what it was like back then. You know, Superman set the bar, but there was like nobody wanted to challenge it. And then, I mean, yeah, after Batman, we did get a whole bunch of, you know, Tim Burton lookalike wannabe movies. And they all just kind of came out one after the other. And Danny Elfman seemed to score every single one of them. But what was really interesting is that, and I was watching this on Red Letter Media's channel, is that when Darkman came out, what's interesting about Darkman is that it's a completely unique, fresh, new character. It's not based on anything. They just made it up. And you rarely see that in the kind of comic book genre nowadays, because everything is based on an actual comic book. And I'm trying to think of what other comic book films came out since then that have that kind of comic book trope about it, but isn't based on an actual IP. And I don't know. I mean, Unbreakable is probably the only one I can think of, but what else is like a comic book movie that's not based on, you know, previous material? And that's what's so great about Darkman.
Well, that's interesting, because I always thought Darkman was actually based on something. I didn't know it was an original idea.
It plays more like the Invisible Man than that's pretty much where its inspiration is. Or it could be like Frankenstein's monster. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different things that Raimi stole from, but put it into something unique, and it's his own thing. But it was never a comic book, which I thought was interesting, but people consider it a comic book movie.
Yeah.
So that's what I like about that. I mean, again, I don't know how many other kind of comic book style films are out there that aren't based on a book.
James Gunn's Super is an original.
Oh, is it really?
So, yeah.
When did that come?
2010, something like that, was it? Or maybe it was a bit later.
Super, but I don't think I've seen that.
Who did
Yeah, but
the
you're right. It was
score for that?
2010. The score was written by Tyler Bates.
Hello, Chris P. Welcome to the show. And hello, Dee. I think I always say your name wrong. Pensky or Penask or Eric, how would you say Pensak?
Pensak?
Pensak? Okay.
Yeah. I'm not too good with names either, but I'm pretty sure that's close. So yeah. But like, where did everybody Pensak? Yeah.
Pensak. Okay.
Points for me. Now we have to guess Chris P's last name.
I have it written down somewhere, but I'm not going to talk to him. And Pensak likes your T-shirt, Eric.
Yeah. This is a custom shirt that was made by a friend of mine, Carol. He comes from Slovakia, and he visits me every year. And he has some family here in Toronto. Well, I'm not in Toronto, but it's close by. But he always comes by and celebrates my birthday. So he's in town in October, and so he
the best month to have a birthday. Just saying.
Yeah. So he always has interesting stuff. Like usually it's beer, because we're both huge craft beer fans. But then he gave me 3 T-shirts, and they're all based on the actual soundtrack, not so much the movie. So the art. He takes the art from the album. So this is the Cutthroat Island one from La La Land, and then he puts the track titles. And I'm not sure you're gonna be able to see them, but they're on the back here. And so he creates that. So he made one for Raiders. He gave there's one for Empire and Cutthroat Island, because he asked me what my 3 favorite scores of all time were once, and I had no idea what he was doing. So he sent me these T-shirts. Well, he brought them with me, and so yeah, it's so it says Cutthroat Island, and there's John Debney's name right there, and then on the back, yeah, there's the track titles from the La La Land release. And so he does the same. He did the same with the Raiders, but it's the DCC release of Raiders, and then it's the special edition release of Empire Strikes Back. So he created these. They're all custom made for me, and he does a whole bunch for himself as well. So he wore his black Raiders of the Lost Ark T-shirts to the Vienna John Williams concerts recently. So he goes to there in a T-shirt.
So go, but I.
So yeah, I love these shirts are awesome. I was just like, my jaw dropped when he gave them to me. So yeah, nice guy. Good shout out to Carl.
Nice shout out for Cutthroat Island as well.
Yeah. Not too many people own a Cutthroat Island T-shirt. Mm. I'm glad I do. I'm glad I have one now. It's awesome, man. It's good art too. I mean, Drew Struzan, can't go wrong with him. So Drew, right there. I got another Drew, Back to the Future, on the wall. That's it for now. But yeah. So hey, did you like the? By the way, thanks for tagging me on that soundtrack tag thing. That was way too much fun.
No problem. I think Miss 80s Movies and Music, who's in the chat, she started that journey.
It's awesome. I can't wait to do another one. Yeah, that was a lot of fun to put together. And I like watching all the other ones too. I'm going through that playlist. I
enjoyed Ian's show very much.
Yeah.
I actually went outside and did that, but I shot it on my phone, and it was on photo rather than video. So I took a photo of myself and then sat on a bench for 15 minutes, going through all the questions, and then came home with a photo of myself.
You should have just released the photo and just you and voiceover.
Yeah, in retrospect, yeah.
No, I they're all fascinating. I just love seeing. I mean, again, I'm not a vinyl collector myself, but it's just interesting to see how everybody's just pulling out these soundtracks that they probably haven't played in a while, or it's just really unique to see everybody's different tastes as well. And so I just hope more people do it. I know I got at least 2 or 3 people that are going to do it on my end. So, but that will get more into scores than song tracks. But yeah.
But I find it interesting as well. You say the scores you like, the films you like. It's also the stories behind when you first got that score, why you got it, how old you were, things like that.
Yeah.
I love all that kind of stuff.
That personal information is what I'm totally into. I mean, I know you can show all the records all you want, but I always like, people who know. And I thought about it watching. I'm like, how do you know exactly when and where you got it? But then I'm thinking, I'm telling my own story. And I'm like, yeah, I know exactly when I picked this up. I know when, how much, why, what it felt like to actually touch it for the first time, and what it felt like to actually listen to these soundtracks for the first time. And it's amazing how profound of an experience those kind of first time experiences with music are, and how it just sticks with you. And those memories just flood back as if it happened yesterday. And it was just great to go down memory lane and tell those stories. I mean, I know my video is like 45 minutes long and everybody else is like 20, but it's just, I can't stop once I get going. And I just want you guys to know every single detail about my journey into soundtracks, because we don't really talk about it that much. I mean, we might go online and read a tweet or get into a Facebook argument with somebody, but to hear or read an actual story, behind the music. I mean, that's what I try to do on my radio show as well. I try to give you as much information as I can about the soundtrack, but I want to give you that personal connection as the reason why I'm playing it for you. And so that's why these videos are so great. And even if I don't have a connection to song tracks, like all the other videos that are on Miss 80's channel, it's just interesting to hear those stories. And that's what I love about the whole process. And it's great to know, you get to know people that way. And I love that. I think this is just the greatest thing ever.
Yeah. And it's not a conversation. It's not you saying something, then somebody saying, well, why? Mm-hmm. It just allows you to say what you want about the scores that you love, without anybody having to question it or say, well, no, you're wrong, or,
right.
or whatever. It's just you.
Yeah. And I think, and I would love to have done it live the way that you did, Daniel, because then you get that interaction with everybody, you know, at the exact, you pull that out and it's all of a sudden, oh, I have that one. And I remember blah, 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 blah. And I thought that was also really cool. And I'm trying to type as well going, yeah, I remember getting that one. Or I really like that one too. But I think that's even the cooler part is that I would love to do a live stream on the next one I do, but it's just a, you know, trying to balance that. But I think it's great to watch yours, especially because of the reaction, getting that instant reaction and then seeing where the conversation goes from there. But yeah, this has been it's been a wonderful experience participating and watching.
I was talking to both of y'all when I was watching your videos because you said you bought that Empire box, not the Empire, sorry, the Star Wars box set. Yeah. And you said, and then I had to go to class. I'm like, no, you didn't. No, you did not have to go to class. You could have gone home, listened to it all day. You did not have to go to class.
You know, you're right. I didn't have to, but you know, I was living at home. So and my mom she's a housewife. She just stayed at home. So she would know. It's like, Eric's got to go to class. Well, what the hell are you doing home now? I mean, I could easily say class was canceled. But yeah. And I didn't want to miss anything, although I did miss everything because I literally was flipping through the whole collection during class, and then yeah, I went home and listened to them all. But yeah, like I said, those memories are still very fresh. I still remember, you know, the way my bedroom was set up and where I was sitting and how it all sounded and how it all looked and the feel, and those memories are so vivid, so vivid. Such an exciting time, especially having. I mean, because we all probably have almost everything that we can ever possibly want from score sound. Close.
No, I don't have 7,000, my friend. I got like 1/7 of that.
But I feel like back then, where my collection was in its infancy, it was in the hundreds, and so finding Star Wars for the first time was such a thrill because I didn't have it. Now I have a million different versions of, you know, Star Wars recordings, or, you know, Raiders had always been my favorite ever since I was a kid. But, you know, going to the record shop and asking for them to order it for me, and they're like, well, that's been out of print since, you know, forever. So there's no way you're going to get it. I'm like, well, that sucks. Then finding out that it's finally coming out again. And so I'm finally owning the soundtrack and holding it in my hands and you know, being able to play it for the very first time without the movie is, I mean, I don't know, I can't remember the last time I've had that experience because I have so many. And I think maybe the last time I was really truly just jumping out of my seat about a soundtrack was Back to the Future, because I never thought in a million years that anyone was going to get a chance to release the complete score from that movie. And when I heard about that, I mean, that was my holy grail when that happened. And that was like, what, 12, 13 years ago, maybe even longer than that.
Been that long?
But, you know, when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to finally get a chance. Finally, the whole thing is going to be in my hand. And then when you find out that it's 2 CDs and we get an early version of the score, it's like, come on. It was Christmas time in June or whenever it came out. But yeah, it's tough to have that experience again on my side, because I just get so much is sent to me over the weeks. I mean, today 3 soundtracks came in. I don't even know what they're from, but that's the nature of my business now, where I get 15 to 20 new scores that come in, but that excitement level that I used to have at the beginning of collecting, it just isn't there anymore. I mean, I still have a passion for it, but that wow factor, I don't know if you guys feel the same way.
Well, it must be different for you, Erik, because you say you're getting sent these scores all the time, and you've got, you say 7,000. How much? You know, you don't listen to all of them, do you? You know, it's because you're saying everything.
Yeah.
From my point of view, I'll buy a score because I want that score, and I want to listen to that score. I'll sometimes blind buy something on a whim. It doesn't happen that often. So everything I buy, or the majority of the scores that I buy, are scores that I want, or that I want to have, that I want to listen to. So
yeah, and I think that's the point. Yeah, I think when you pay your hard-earned cash for something, you know, then you're like, there's something to be, yeah, especially if it's a blind buy. I mean, that's your hard-earned money, and who knows whether you're going to like it or not. So yeah, I mean, it seems like I'm complaining, and I'm not, but I've even talked to other people who are in similar situations where you just have so much. And I look, my 19-year-old self is smacking me across the face right now where I'm saying I had too much, because like I remember back then just being in awe of some of the size of these collections where it's like, well, how can you not find something to play? You now have everything. And now that I have, well, close to everything that I ever wanted, it's really hard to even find something to listen to. But I still go back to those ones that have that distinct, profound memory, because it is more than just the music. And even if it's a great experience that I've had with the film as well. So if I can't figure it out, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to Blade Runner because I remember when I first saw that and what I felt for that, or I'll go back to Empire, I'll go back to Raiders, I'll go back to Batman, and those are kind of like my security blanket. Those make me feel really, really, really comfortable, but they have more impact because, one, I probably bought the soundtrack myself, or just the experience of seeing the movie and experiencing those scores. So yeah, any of the new stuff that I get now, it's tough to go, all right, I'm going to open that up. Now I'm going to spend an hour with something I don't really know, and I hope I like it. And if I don't, that's an hour of my time gone. So it's a catch-22.
Can you not tell usually within like 5 to 10 minutes if you want to continue to listen to it?
It depends. Like for instance, I think that if I listen to the Arcane soundtrack, which came out last year, if I had not seen the series first, I probably would have listened to the first couple of tracks and went, all right, and I wouldn't have gotten through it, and then found that one incredible track. I mean, the whole thing is really good, but I've experienced it in context first, and I think it's an incredible series. But there's an old school romantic love theme that occurs in the middle of the series, and when I saw it, I was like, who writes like this anymore? I mean, literally, and this isn't just like old man yelling at clouds going, they don't write like this anymore. It is like a track stuck in the 1940s. It has that melancholy feel to it, that kind of like high string Alfred Newman sound to it. I'm like, where is this coming from? And they're putting this in this video game adaptation, and it was like, wow, it was incredible. So, and the same thing with Dune. If I had not listened to that in context first, I probably wouldn't have got through I didn't get through the Sketchbook album when I first played it. I couldn't do it. But if I listened to the original soundtrack before seeing the film, I probably wouldn't have gotten through it. But now context means a whole lot to me with that movie, especially. So sometimes the opening sucks, and then you find like there's another great example is James Horner's Karate Kid. I found the first half to be completely underwhelming, but then the second half is absolutely mind blowing. Sometimes you just got to stick with it.
As you say, context is for me. Context is everything. Sometimes you'll see a film, you'll enjoy the music. Sometimes you'll buy a CD without having seen the film, and as you say, you'll listen to the first few tracks. You think, oh, this is going nowhere, and then you stop listening. But if you carried on listening, there'd be great stuff that you've missed out on. And then you see the film, and the music takes on a new meaning, a new kind of feeling. Sometimes, I know, Daniel, you buy a lot of scores of films that you've never seen. Do you actually make a point of trying to see the films of scores that you've got, or is it just about the music?
I'd say it's probably about the music. Like one of the times that I met Keith Lockhart after a concert in Boston, they had played Heidi that time, and they played Towering Inferno and Nixon, and I just shook his hand like it was going to fall off. I said, "Thank you for playing Nixon. Oh my God, I can't believe you did that." Oh, it was just amazing. Holy crap. But he's like, "Wow, you must be a really big John Williams fan." And I'm like, "Yes, I have most everything." And I got home and I'm like, well, what do I not have? And I made a list of what I don't have. And I just methodically went through it, just crossing everything off. And I did it casually. It took about a year. I got everything. And then I thought, okay, who do I need to tackle next? And I thought Jerry Goldsmith. And I'm like, holy crap, you got over 200 film scores. I'm like, that's a little daunting. John Williams is like still over 100. You know what? Maybe like 15 have never been released, say?
Wow, almost everything. There's almost everything, except for a couple of his early,
But like the early
work.
stuff.
Yeah. Like Daddy-O still hasn't been properly released. The Killers. I think there's some TV scores that might still be available, but I think we're getting to the point where we almost have every film score that John Williams has ever written.
Has Sergeant Riker been released?
No.
Okay.
Or like Sugarland Express is the holy grail, I think, right now for all Williams fans, because that's never been released.
CD.
You know, there's a questionable CD out there with questionable sound. Yeah, import. We'll call them imports. But yeah, I and there are rumors as to why, and I don't want to believe those rumors. Like I don't know why John Williams would want to put the kibosh on something like that. I mean, it's a historical score, and I think it should be released, but we'll see what happens. I'm sure at some point Mike Matessino will be working on it, or he is working on it. Maybe there's some hitches with Universal, who knows? But yeah, Gold. That was the thing about Goldsmith. I can remember, like, I got a lot of my Goldsmith stuff. I mean, I bought that myself. And just every day you go to the record store, and it was like, oh well, there's one I haven't heard before. Oh, there's one I haven't heard before, and just because it was Goldsmith, like you blind buy it no matter what. Yeah. Same thing with Williams, and same thing with Horner. You just go, well, that's absolutely it. So all your favorites, you'd always just go, yes, absolutely. It didn't matter whether it was good or not. And so, but yeah, it's like we're like almost, I mean, Goldsmith stuff is, I mean, a lot of that's also come out. And I mean, we almost have everything by Horner. I mean, we're living in this incredible age now where, a lot of the stuff that we wanted back in the 80s and 90s is now being made available. And I think that's just absolutely fantastic. What I wish though, I wish it wasn't in the limited edition form, because I can't imagine what a poor new film music fan who's just starting now is like, oh, great. All of those were released at one point, and now they're unavailable, and they cost $1 million. And I just wish that those people, that's what I like about when La La Land's doing, I think, Star Trek: The Motion Pictures, like 10,000 copies. I mean, how's that ever going to sell out? Or just constantly, I guess, renewing their license and releasing them again. And I don't understand why soundtrack fans get so upset when it's like, well, this is the third iteration of this. Well, it's there for people who didn't get a chance to buy it 7 years ago. This isn't for you.
Buy it. You don't have to.
This is for the people that don't have it. Be happy that now someone's going to get a chance to listen to something that you also enjoy. Sure, there's 6 different releases of the Blue Max, but that's great.
I have all of them.
Everybody can listen to Blue Max. Yeah. So that's, soundtrack collecting, the soundtrack community is a little weird, but yeah. But I'm interested in kind of this question here, with the wow factor increasing when you get something for a film you really connect with. And that's wow, that's quite interesting. Like, is it better music when you connect it with the film, or can you enjoy it just on its own? I mean, I listened to tons of soundtracks without having seen the film, and I can still, I guess, appreciate it as good music. But then, maybe once it's in context, then you're like, oh, I get it. And you might have you're definitely going to have a different feeling. But I'm wondering if that's ever happened to any of you guys, or whether you agree with this.
Well, just real fast, Erik Woods, this is on you. Should The Karate Kid by James Horner be $175 on eBay?
No, it shouldn't.
What?
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, buy it.
Totally.
It's got free shipping.
I don't understand it. But I mean, it was much like where I was talking in my video about, there was a couple of specific John Williams CDs that came out in the 80s. It was the Accidental Tourist and Witches of Eastwick, which were almost impossible to find. I think even Space Camp as well around that same time.
Yeah,
impossible, because they were released and then just immediately went out of print. And I wish it didn't happen. I just wish everybody had access, but I guess in the streaming world, you do. But as for a physical collector, I could see it being incredibly difficult, and it's but 170, it's a good score. It is, but not for
Is that hard to find?
$175. I don't know.
I mean, that was the other one that popped up on eBay.
I don't know the nature of the seller's market now. I mean, the book that I do have is so out of touch with the realities of soundtracks nowadays. But yeah, it depends. It depends on, I don't know how people decide what's, because like try finding Tomorrowland by Michael Giacchino. That's one of the biggest collector's items. I think that and John Carter, next to impossible to find, and they're super expensive. But yeah, so I mean, have you guys experienced the wow factor increasing?
It's sometimes it's hard when you've seen a film so many times and listened to the score so many times to kind of separate the two. But there's a moment in E.T. In the finale where E.T. says, "I'll be right here," and the music, crescendos, and just the combination of E.T. saying that and that music, it sends shivers through me. If I'd listened to that piece of music first, it would have still been a great piece of music, but it wouldn't have had that kind of, that oomph.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was thinking the exact same example. I don't tear up when I'm listening to that. I appreciate the greatness of its music and I understand the context, but then you're right, when you have those performances matching or mixing with the music, you just definitely feel it more. Much like the finale to Field of Dreams. Kevin Costner just has to say, "Dad, you won't have a catch," and I'm done. But then Horner is like, "All right, let me just pile it on." And you're a puddle. And
that scene destroys me because Costner's voice just catches slightly as he says it.
Yes.
And then that music kind of,
yeah. And a lot of us have been in that moment, or you understand the feelings. But you're right, that little quiver in his voice, you're just, oh man, no. And but Horner, and that's what's so great about even that cue. It's 9 minutes long and he's just rolling along to that, building to that. And it's not not a note is wasted in that either. Every single note is there for a reason. And it takes 7-8 minutes for us to get to that final moment, but he's just building it up so perfectly. And there's so much happening there. And I mean, I really do appreciate that on its own. It still gives me all the feels, but you're right. In context, it's much like, the Asteroid Field from Empire Strikes Back, the absolute thrill of that sequence, and hearing how, every moment, every whoosh, every, TIE fighter flying by, it's accentuated by the music. And that thrill is there along. It's tough to separate the music from the visuals and have that wow factor. I could still have that wow factor hearing a piece of music for the first time on its own. Like you brought up Nixon. I remember hearing that first track, which is the trailer music from Nixon. And I was in tears just for how powerful that piece of music was. And it's not like this overly romantic, overly emotional piece that builds to some sort of like, it's not like E.T. It's not like the finale of Field of Dreams. It's this huge, almost like an action track, but the way that he composes it and the way that he builds that piece up, once you hear it for the first time, I get giddy and I get emotional. And the thing is, having seen the movie, I don't get those feelings. I understand what he's doing, but the feelings are much different because the context is different. But I still think it's one of the best trailers I've ever seen. And I watch it a lot as well. Just like that's a 4.5 minute trailer that, it's one of the best pieces of trailer music ever.
Going back to the Asteroid Field, before we get too far off that, again, as you say, great piece of music, coupled with the film, great. But have you seen it in concert live?
Yes.
The concert version. Listening to that live is just absolutely amazing. The brass in that is, when you see it in a good auditorium, it's just, you can feel it in your body when it goes bum 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 bum, and it cuts into that theme.
Yes.
Just
yeah, you picked my favorite
awesome.
moment. Yeah, those trombones when the Falcon just comes right up to the camera, right?
Yeah.
Williams is just, he's just playing around, and that's what I love about it. I've seen the concert version. The first time I ever saw it, Erik Kunzel was conducting the Toronto Symphony Orchestra, so I got to see him conduct it, and he's an incredible interpreter of John Williams' music. Well, he was. But then I got to see, and I'm not sure if any of you have seen the Empire Strikes Back live in concert, but then I got to finally hear the original version, and it's not on its own because you still hear sound effects, but what was the most impressive part about that, and I still don't know how orchestras still find the power to perform that piece, because the Battle of Hoth has just ripped on for 15 straight minutes, some of the most difficult music that John Williams has ever written, and they get like a 5-second break, and then Williams just brings you right back into the asteroid field, and you still have to have these, high range trumpets just ripping along and try not to, either pitch or bend or play a wrong note. The Toronto Symphony Orchestra played that entire 20-minute sequence flawlessly. There was not a wrong note. Everything was dead on. But then, to witness the live version of the film version of the Asteroid Field was breathtaking. I mean, I was almost out of breath for the orchestra when that ended. Like, they should have gone to an intermission. Just those poor guys. But they were it, and it's incredible to see how they all work together. It's a phenomenal experience, especially if you're going to see Empire, and that 15-minute finale to ET is also, a tour de force as well. But if you get a chance to watch Empire, I hope that people have great seats to see the orchestra. We were higher up in the first balcony, so we were able to see everybody just ripping around, the percussion section just running around trying to get to their place, and the conductors just absolute perfection. These orchestras are amazing that are performing these scores, because they're not supposed to be performed like this. They're not. And the fact that they can nail it on the first take is quite impressive.
It's always great hearing these pieces that from soundtracks and recordings, hearing them played live, because you're hearing the orchestra as one full thing, rather than that portion of the orchestra is mixed down for that particular take. It's just all there, all in your face, all at the same time. It's just amazing.
I also find that I'm hearing things that I've never heard before, even though you have great recordings. Like for Raiders, for instance, I think is a brilliant recording, but the balance is of course much different than listening to it live, and listening to all that atonal music in the middle portions where they're in the Well of the Souls. I can't believe how amazing that stuff is. And anybody's like, oh, John Williams is just the tuneful guy, he's just writing fanfares, and the fact that he's writing this complex avant-garde 20th century minimalism music inside Raiders of the Lost Ark, he can do anything and everything. But I was just mesmerized watching those sequences, and then seeing the orchestra perform those live and what they were doing, and hearing certain details that I didn't get off the CD. Utterly fascinating stuff.
Absolutely.
And like I said, you're hearing things you don't necessarily hear on the recordings. That's what I love about those live in concert performances, especially if they dial down the dialogue and the sound effects. And with the Toronto Symphony, they do that. You can barely hear them, especially when the orchestra is just like in full on action mode. They take over everything, and it's just wonderful to experience.
Should I go to Boston to see them do Empire in June? Because I've been like on the fence about this for like.
Have you ever seen it done before?
No, I saw them do Star Wars summer of 2019.
Empire is,
it's the best Star Wars movie ever.
Yes. Yeah. And you are like, there's not a bad piece, and it's fascinating to hear it live. Like I said, you're going to hear things that you probably have never heard before, different orchestrations that, again, the recordings are, it's a different mix. It's different balance. It's phenomenal to hear them live, hear them perform live. So I highly recommend it. Any chance you get to see them, I would go see them. Like Superman's the one I want to see next. I really want to see Superman. And I missed Back to the Future back in 2019 or 2000. What was it? 2020. Yeah. May 2020 because of COVID. They canceled that. And it was going to be played here in town.
They canceled so much because of that.
Yeah. And I haven't seen anywhere else here in Canada perform Back to the Future. So the fact that we were getting here in town, like we're in Kitchener, which is just on the outside of Toronto. We have our own symphony orchestra and they're fantastic, but we were going to get Back to the Future, and they're dirt cheap tickets too. So, because you go to Toronto, you're spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars to get these seats. But yeah, Back to the Future and Superman are the ones I want to see next.
Well, the LSO is doing Superman this summer.
Fantastic. I'm not going there, but yeah. But hey, let's try it out, Ian. Yeah.
I was just thinking it's within reach.
There you go.
It'd be what, like a 6-hour train ride?
4.5 from here.
4.5?
Not bad. It's not bad.
Yeah. And of course, the LSO did the original score.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah. Can't go wrong with that.
No.
I just want to touch on something real fast. This is what I find like so frustrating with soundtrack collecting. We were talking about Karate Kid, and it's going for like what, 175 or whatever.
Yeah.
I looked on Discog. There's one copy for sale, $170.
I don't understand that.
The lowest price it sold was $19. The median price is $30. The highest price is $75. It last sold January 14th of 2022. So let's just say it sold for $75 3 months ago. How is it $170 now?
Like, I don't know who comes up with these prices.
I mean, that's like me, like, no, yeah, my house is for sale. It's 2.5 million, you know? I know everything else in the neighborhood's like 200,000, but you know, hey, this house.
Yes.
Can you see that?
No.
How much is the shadow?
2,500.
2,527 pounds.
Is that Entrada's?
That's Entrada's one, and that's in pounds.
Holy crap! That's like,
now, I saw that on Amazon the other day, and you know, I've got that copy, so I didn't want it. I don't know why I looked at it, and I emailed that seller and saying, "Is that really the price? Is that ludicrous price?" I haven't heard back, but
I'm sure in Toronto one day we'll re-release it. At least I hope so. But you know, here, you want to spend good money? Chandos is doing a 25% off all of their or selected CDs, but that includes their film music collections. If you don't have any of those, and I think most of them are $7 to $9 each, so you're getting 25% off of that as well. I highly recommend you go and pick it up. The link I found this morning, it was on Film Score Monthly, and I think it was Stephen Woolston who now he's the one that introduced me to that Ralph Vaughan Williams set, which I still haven't got yet. But I'll see if I can find the link. Like dirt cheap. So if you don't own them, here we go. Special offers. I'm gonna put the link in the chat.
I just wanted to welcome Mr. Falk to the chat. Good to see you. I don't think I've seen you before. And since we're talking about exuberant prices, Mr. Pensack says he misses the pre-internet days of stumbling across a soundtrack that was limited or didn't know exist. Like yes and no, because I remember I would go to my local Camelot, which I guess it was a regional record store back in the day. And they had this massive book with itty bitty print. And I would come to it and be like, okay, I want to order this and this and this and this and this. And then 4 weeks later, I'd get a postcard saying, "We're sorry, that item's out of stock." And it's just like all the time. Now it's just like, what do I want? And I can find it online. I may not want to spend 2,500 pounds for the shadow, but if I really want to, I could. I mean, I really can't, but you know, you have the option, and I like being able to just find what I want and get it.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it was exciting. I think there was a time where it was exciting, where like you would go, okay, I want that soundtrack, and then I would go to the record shop and I'd say, hey, can you find me this? I had to do that with the Rocketeer, and the fact that they found it back in the day, the Hollywood Records version, because that was out of print, and they found it, and I got it for like $25. And again, that was another one of those moments where I knew exactly where I was when I ordered it, when I got the call, when I went and picked it up. And it was just like one of those ones that I always wanted forever. And yeah, I mean, those days, yeah, I have strong nostalgic feelings for them, for sure.
Yeah, I must admit, when I was in the army in the late 80s, early 90s, I used to frequently go down to London because they had great record shops in London. They had 58 Dean Street Records, which was a very famous film and TV soundtrack shop, and they, you know, the big Virgin Megastore and HMV stores. They used to have great soundtrack sections, and Tower Records in Piccadilly Circus, huge shop, and they had a whole kind of shop inside the shop that was just for scores and soundtracks, and it was a joy going there because I knew I had X number of pounds and I was going to spend it all on soundtracks.
Yeah.
I had no idea what I was going to find or what I was going to buy until I got there.
Yeah.
And it was so exciting. I used to spend the whole weekend in London. Didn't have enough money for food and drink, really. I just spent it all on soundtracks. But it was brilliant.
I know the feeling.
Yeah.
Like I worked many years in like right in downtown Toronto, so I had access to the three major record shops that were there. And there was a Tower Records. That was my first ever experience with Tower Records. They've recently shut down. There was an HMV, and there was a Canadian record shop called Sam the Record Man. And if you've ever seen a movie shot in Toronto, and you'll know, because you'll see these giant neon discs that were outside of this shop, and you'll see it like it's in The Incredible Hulk. There's other movies like Police Academy and all that sort of stuff. Anything shot in Toronto, they shot down Yonge Street, and you'll see these giant neon what they're supposed to be records. Anyway, so Sam the Record Man, you're right, had its own soundtrack section, and that's where I was finding all the Entrada stuff. They seemed to be the only place in town, but then like HMV would have all the Vrez stuff, and then Tower would have all the kind of old stuff or stuff that was really hard to find in those other two shops. So every day it was just like hopping on my lunch, you know, from Tower Records, and I'd just go up a block and hit HMV and then Sam the Record Man, and I'd find something. Always bought something every day. And Tower Records was actually the first store where I ever saw Film Score Monthly, the print edition in. And I'm like, this is amazing. Like I didn't even realize there, you know, I could get it here in Canada. And but yeah, like the record shopping is something that I definitely miss, you know, flipping through the CDs and hoping to find something that, you know, like where I was living in Hamilton, we had record shops, but they didn't have the great selection the way that the big city did. And that was always fascinating. It was always great to go into Toronto and then flip through all the stuff and find something that, like, I found that first expanded edition of Poltergeist, but I can only find it in Toronto. And it was like, what is this? I can't believe I found it. Couldn't wait to get home and listen to it. It was quite an experience. But I guess I can understand, you know, LP collectors now who are, you know, going to all these small little record shops and finding, you know, something that they enjoy. And it's really tough to do it, I guess, now if you're a CD fan. So
yeah, that excitement's not there anymore because it's as Daniel said, it's so easy to go online now and find the stuff that you want, and you just click on it, and you just sit back and wait for it to come.
Yeah. But if anybody's listening and is interested in that Chandos deal, so it's chandos.net/special offers. And so I think most of if you're in your film music fan, I think most of the film music of series is there. including that Ron Goodwin album they have. It's absolutely fantastic.
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned that because
you have it right there. That is one of their best albums, best recordings. You can buy it for, the normal price was £10. You can get it for $7.88 right now with the 25% off. And I don't know what the shipping is, but the BBC Philharmonic Rumangamba albums are absolutely brilliant, and everybody should own them. Like the volume, you can get the Vaughan Williams set again. Normal price is $20. Yeah, so I got it for £5. Now it's back up to 20. But anyway, there's a lot of great stuff there. They do a lot of great releases. So if you want to spend your money, Daniel, you should do it there. If you don't have any of those albums, you'll love them.
I'll check them out.
And they record them in like proper sort of classical suites as well. So like they might have, let's see, the Korngold one. Well, the Seawolf, I think they do most of the Seawolf, and then they add a suite from the Adventures of Robin Hood. But the Adventures of Robin Hood's like 4 tracks to make a classical suite out of it. And that's the way they curate their albums, much like their Seahawk recording as well. That's actually really good too. It's an underrated recording, but I highly recommend you get those. They're fantastic. Like the Christopher Gunning album. You have that one, Ian?
No, I haven't. I was going to mention I've got the Ron Goodwin one and the John Addison album, which is also excellent.
Well, if you can find, like I said, the 3 volumes of Vaughan Williams, cannot go wrong with that. The Arthur Bliss one is excellent. The Things to Come concert suite, so good, so good. Lots of great stuff. Highly recommend that. Those albums, they're great.
So where do y'all buy most of your music from? Miss 80s wants to know. eBay, Discogs, local store, independent retailer?
I'm out of this conversation.
He gets all this stuff free.
I do.
Magically shows up in the mailbox. It's just like, where did this come from? I don't know.
I don't know.
My life sucks. I don't have room for it all.
I still trawl shops here in Edinburgh, sometime through in Glasgow, which is about 40 miles away. I still do the charity shop, thrift store kind of thing, because sometimes you'll dig up some gem that's in there for £2
like
quid
$1,
or something.
right?
Yeah. Again, Amazon. Recently, I put something on one of the groups on Facebook. I got Masada direct from Intrada. It's the first time I'd actually ordered anything direct from Intrada, and that was great. I'll do that again. But yeah, I get stuff from everywhere, absolutely everywhere.
I get a lot from eBay, but once a month I get emails, one from La La Land, one from Intrada, one from Band, one from Quartet Records. And I just close my eyes and I take a deep breath. I'm like, okay, I got to open up this email now and just see how bad it's going to be. And I touch it and it's like, okay, nothing this month. So move to the next one. 3 CDs there, 4 CDs there, 1 CD here. And just because I've learned just buy it when it comes out, because if you don't, you're going to want it like 6 months, 8 months, whatever. And it's going to be out of stock for 2 years, or it's sold out. And you're like, well, I'll go to eBay. And it's like, oh Lord, just like open up an artery. So if I have any interest in it, I go ahead and I just buy it. But I get a lot on eBay. And Ian's right. The thrift stores, I finally started looking at the music in thrift stores, and probably at least once a week, I'll find some soundtrack. It's like, I found Hudson Hawk. Wasn't on my radar, but I was like, I had some Michael Kamen score. It's for Sarabande release. I'll get it. I got it. I'll usually find something like at least once a week at a thrift store. And they're usually like $1 for CDs. Sometimes it's half off day and it's like 50 cents. and there's a $5 minimum with your credit cards. I'm like, oh, let me go find something else.
Any excuse.
Yeah, I mean, let me buy this bass for, I don't know, it's $450. Oh hell, it's half off too. God, let me go find something else. So,
how much do you purchase in a month?
let's not talk about that in case my mother's watching.
Okay, because it was, well, here's the.
I counted up. I bought 16 titles since the 15th of March.
16.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you spend the time listening to them? Like, do you like, you get it and then you like, do you or you go more in a collector's mentality where it's like, I gotta get it, and maybe I'll listen to it a couple months from now, or it's like or do you, like, how do you go about, like, I know you were talking about like, I better get it now or else I'm never going to get it again, but is there a point where it's like, I've heard that's good, I'll get it, but I'll put it on the back burner for a couple of months?
I'd say 75% gets listened to as soon as it comes in, and 25 probably just gets cataloged, meaning there or out there.
I don't think I buy as much as Daniel. I think this is going to sound really bad, a bit more discerning.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean that in a bad way, Daniel.
Oh no, I wasn't offended. Don't worry.
I as soon as I get stuff in, I listen to it straight away. I do lots of walking, and then I'll put it on the iPod and listen to stuff as I walk. But I always listen to stuff straight away. I can't wait.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because I can't remember. I mean, I'm not trying to rub it in your face, but it's just like when I used to get it, the get CDs, buy them.
You're rubbing it in our faces now.
I know. I'm sorry. A lot of times was like it was. I had such a long commute, and so that would give me my, but it's either an hour and a half to get back home, and so I'd need something to listen to, and so it was always like go to the store, grab it, unwrap, listen to it on the way home, and or just then play it once I got home. But yeah, like there's stuff that still comes in where, I mean, I don't have the time. That's the thing. Right now, I don't have the time. I can't remember the last time I listened to something straight through. And it might have been yesterday because I was busy doing stuff on the computer for uploading my show from yesterday. And I've listened to for the very first time, and I've had it forever, which was David Newman's Firebirds. I didn't realize how awesome that was. But I've had it forever. It might be. It was 19
about helicopters.
Yes, yeah, and it has a very, very you can hear the influences, but David Newman really disguises them well, with the exception of that kind of, there's a snare motif that comes right out of the abyss. But it is, I was listening, I'm like, where has this been all my life? Well, I've had it. But I mean, again, that's the first time I've listened to something start to finish in months, and I just don't have the time anymore to just kind of sit back and go, all right, I'm going to absorb this and enjoy it. I mean, maybe the last one was probably Dune, where that was 2 weeks straight, just repeat, play it. But that was such a profound experience. But yeah, I don't have the time anymore, which is sad.
That's interesting. When you listen to film scores, are you doing something else and it's there in the background, or do you sit down and just listen?
Yeah, I've never, like, I have a separate chair in this office here, which was, it's either I watch TV in here or I can just listen to music, and I don't use it for that. And usually I'm doing something else. Like a lot of times where I listen to music is in the car. If I'm traveling to a shoot or wherever, and that's easy to use. It's usually podcasts or music. But the thing is about my music is I rarely bring albums. I have a best of playlist that is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tracks long. And so I just hit shuffle on that and go. But the reason is because I know that every track on there is going to be great, and I don't really necessarily have to pay attention. Which is like, oh, well, there's Superman. Okay, great. That's 5 minutes of awesome. And but yeah, if I'm here, usually as I'm either writing a script for my podcast, sometimes I can do it when I'm working, because if I'm scrubbing through footage when I'm doing an edit, or or just organizing footage, I can usually have something playing in the background. But I can't remember the last time I just sat there and went, just me and the music. Yeah, I don't remember the last time I did that. So it's usually something in the background, but I'm paying attention to it. I want to. Like, I mean, if I'm downstairs making dinner, for instance, which I will do tonight, I will put on a soundtrack or a playlist that I've created, and it's on full volume. Like, the family's got to listen to it or they can leave. And
Fair enough.
you know, so it's like, but then I make sure it's not just, you know, kind of like sitting underneath everything else. It's full on while I'm doing something in the kitchen. So I'm paying attention to it, but I'm not like 100% like, yeah. What about you guys? Do you guys like just like spend your time like just absorbing it?
No, I'm the same. The majority of times I listen to music is if I'm doing something. I can't just sit there and think, well, I'm going to spend 2 hours. I don't have 2 hours to spend doing that, just listening to music. It'd be nice to be able to do that, but when it comes to that, though, we're probably all the same. There is probably a core selection of soundtracks we always go back to. There's certain John Williams, certain Jerry Goldsmith. I'll always go back and listen to the same things. I never get bored with listening to those same tracks over and over and over again.
Yep.
I mean, there's I don't know why, but Air Force One has stuck with me ever since it came out.
Yeah.
I was overjoyed when that expanded version came out from Varese a couple of years ago. But I've listened to the hijacking. I don't know how many hundreds of times, and it still thrills me every single time. Same with the tracks from Star Wars, from Superman, from Far and Away, the land race. I can listen to that till the cows come home. Mm-hmm. I take it it's the same with you. You just don't get bored with him. I don't understand how that can be. They're still fresh every time I listen to them.
Yeah, I agree. I think that when it comes down to listening, I'm always looking now for the shortest possible playtime. I appreciate the expanded editions, and I'm not one of those guys who are like, oh no, it can't be complete and chronological, and because it just takes away from how can anybody listen to something like that for 2 hours? It's like, well, somebody can, and somebody will enjoy that. But I remember back in the 90s and early 2000s, we were all complaining about how short those Varese Sarabande CDs were.
40 minutes.
40 minutes or 30 minutes, some were 28. Like, there was a Basil Polidorus album, it was 28 minutes long. But now those are perfect. Those are absolutely perfect for me. I throw it on, and within 30 minutes, it's done. I get all the highlights. I mean, I mentioned on my show yesterday where Volcano popped up. And you know what? That 29-minute presentation has all the good stuff. Not saying the rest of it isn't good, but I'll probably listen into the original release over the expanded release any day of the week because of its length in time. And I'm finding I'm doing that a lot, with the exception of a few albums. There's few where it's like top and tail, absolutely perfect, amazing, and it, I can't shorten it at all. But there's stuff where like I can get through 4 Varese albums in 2 hours, and that's awesome. That's awesome, and I'm glad they're there now. But I still have the expanded editions, but I really do appreciate those presentations now. And that's where, again, with having such limited time, now those shorter albums are becoming way more valuable to me than what they were back in the 90s, which is really ironic because I was the one also complaining about those albums as well.
Yeah, I suppose the kind of the shorter albums, they were arranged to give you the best presentation of the score. So
right,
you'd like to think they'd have the best parts of the score. Sometimes they didn't, but even still, with the expanded versions, if you might find there's some filler in there that skip that track, skip that. So you'll always have your core kind of listen to that. But
there's some of those releases, like you're talking about Air Force One. I mean, there are about 2 cues. I think that if you added them to that 30-minute presentation, would have made just the absolute perfect perfect album. And I'm thinking about the MIG music that Joel McNeely wrote, which I remember seeing the movie for the first time going, I cannot wait to hear that on the album. And then what happened? It took like months for that album to come out.
And it's not there.
And it's not there. And on top of that, if you notice, there's nothing with the chorus on that album. Why? It costs a lot of money to put choral music on albums. And so none of that prison music is on there either. But I mean, if you put the prison music, the Radic is that his name?
Yeah.
That piece with the MIG attack in that presentation, you got yourself something awesome. Same thing with First Contact. There's only one cue that would have made that album absolutely perfect. I'm shocked they didn't put it on it, and that's the first
Flight of the Phoenix.
Flight of the Phoenix. You add Flight of the Phoenix to that presentation, you really don't need anything else. I mean, it's again, glad we do, but if you want to listen to that album and put Flight of the Phoenix where it's supposed to be, it's a heavenly experience to listen to. It really is, and I'm just shocked. Again, I remember getting that album, listening to it and going, where is that track? And it's not there. And it's like,
that's interesting. You should mention those two tracks as well, because for Jerry Goldsmith's score, they're not tracks scored by Jerry Goldsmith.
Right.
The Flight of the Phoenix was Joel. So.
That's right. But there was Joel material on that album, right? And but I think everybody remembers, not besides the main theme. I think everybody remembers that cue from that score, and it's just shocking that one. I'm shocked that that's not like Goldsmith's like, yeah, you know what? We should put that on. We should put that one on there. Yeah,
because by all accounts, he was very proud of the work that Joel did on that score.
Oh, absolutely.
So, to put that front and center in the score would have been, that's my son's music.
Yeah, exactly. And it's such a climactic, wonderful piece. And, but yeah, I mean, the McNeely stuff, and that's the thing. McNeely gets the credit on the original album as well as additional music, but nothing that he wrote is on that original album. But I can understand it was so expensive back then to just release 30 minutes. And it with 15-minute chunks, right? So, but it's like, do you remember the Scream and Scream 2 album that came out from Varese? It was like a 15-minute chunk of Scream and a 15-minute chunk of Scream 2, and you're like, that's it. And then they don't even put the opening track on, Scream, and it's like, why? What's the point? That's a tough album to get through. It really, really is.
Talking of short 15-minute chunks, the one thing I always felt was so bad was the album that Varese brought out in the mid-'80s, The Right Stuff and North and South.
I was just thinking of that.
the LSO re-recording with Bill Conti. I mean, there were two great suites, but where was the score for The Right Stuff that won an Oscar for Bill Conti?
Yeah.
I know the film wasn't a great success money-wise, but the music won an Oscar.
Mm-hmm. At least we got something from it, though. I mean, it's
eventually,
cheaper for them to do that recording, and I think they did that only in one day. But at least we got, and it's great too. It is an incredible sounding album. It's an Eric Tomlinson recording back in the early 80s where his stuff was really shining. I love the sound of that album, and that's where I was first introduced to both of those scores. But yeah, it could have been longer, absolutely. I'm pretty sure. But then again, you're probably thinking of LP presentation at that time, right? Fitting, yeah, and that's the other thing. You're looking at 45 minutes max back then. But they're still great. They still are great, and I mean the whole Right Stuff scores is fairly short too, isn't it? And they finally released it.
Yeah, but again, that wasn't the entire score. That was a presentation that Bill Conti had put together back in the day, thinking there would be an album release, but obviously that was canned at the last minute.
Yeah,
and it wasn't a huge success.
Right. And I don't know how you pare down North and South to just 15 minutes, right?
No, because that's a massive score.
It's huge. But I mean, they got a lot of great highlights on that album for sure. But it must have been a daunting task for them to put that together. But it's funny that you mentioned that. It's the exact album I was thinking of going to next.
It's just when you mentioned 15 minutes, I was
Yeah.
thinking, 15 minutes. Yeah, that reminds me of.
Well, it is interesting because, for a lot of those Varese recordings, I mean, you could have, some of them were, I mean, you could do complete recordings, or you can do truncated versions. And, Patton was one where, well, I mean, Patton's 30 minutes, so that's the whole thing. But I'm trying to think of like some of the Alex North scores that they recorded. I don't think those are the complete presentations. So there's some where it's just, highlights, and it's not the complete score. But you would think that you could probably get away with doing a complete score as re-recording, or maybe the parts weren't available. But I'm wondering if it was cheaper to re-record these things. Well, I guess they were, because they were doing that anyway, right? With the Fury, you can release a recording of the Fury and get that out with the LSO and not have to pay as much, right? Instead of the LA musicians. So, and same thing with Brainstorm, right? Brainstorm was an LA recording. And so in order to get the album out, they had to go record the album in London.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's not a very long score either. I think most of it is there, with the exception of maybe a couple of cues. But yeah, there's the LA sessions we have never heard on its own. So all we've heard is it's a brilliant album, brilliant sounding album with the LSO. But yeah, like it was, Fury was done just before the Superman sessions. They wanted to, I think John Williams wanted to release an album. So it's like, all right, let's spend a day or two with the LSO before we record Superman so we can get that album out. And they used to do that all the time. I think, well, didn't Goldsmith do that with Outland? Was it Outland? I think it was Outland. Or Capricorn 1. No, Capricorn. I think Outland was London. I think Capricorn 1 was LA.
Yeah.
So in order to get that album out, they had to go record it in same thing with Mazada.
But Capricorn 1 is the two different, his LA sessions compared to the re-recording, they're almost two completely different scores.
Yes.
And I think they're both great in their own way.
Yeah.
The original recordings are a lot more punchy, and it's a smaller orchestra, I believe. Then the re-recording with the National Philharmonic, I believe, is a lot more expansive.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is stunning. Yeah. But again, depending on my mood, depends on which version I listen to. I think they're both great.
True. So, yeah. So, do you want to talk Batman? We're only what an hour and 15 minutes into this.
I never listened to the Goldenthal themes for Batman, but I'm like, I need to for this show, so I listened to them, and I'm like, yeah, I don't really like these.
Wow.
Do you know what? I love Goldenthal's Batman scores, and I think I mentioned this on a post on Facebook in the past couple of weeks, that maybe his scores are my favorite of that era of Batman films.
You're not the only one that thinks that way. There's many that I have come across that are like, Goldenthal did it the best, and it's I mean, I think, I had the same reaction that Daniel did when I first saw the movie, and I saw the film actually in a drive-in, and so I see Batman Forever. And of course, I had no idea what's happening, what it's about. All I know is that Batman was changed. But then when I heard the opening titles, I'm like, this isn't the Batman theme. What is this? And I had an instant hate for that score just because it wasn't Danny Elfman. And it was also really goofy and whatever. But, as I got older, began appreciating it. And for just how, God, it is really, really good. I mean, Forever is fantastic. And even, hopefully we get Batman and Robin at some point, because the variations on the themes from Forever and all the new stuff that's in that, these are enormous scores that I think this is one of those ones where you can easily divorce the music from the films and just enjoy them on its own. But I think it's also because Elliot Goldenthal is a classical composer, or a concert composer mostly first, than he is a film composer, even though he is writing for film. But these have such fluid motion to them, and they do feel like classical works. And so I highly recommend giving Batman Forever another go. I would even try, Daniel, if you can, just the original album first, because the expanded is, again, it's expanded. There's a lot there.
That's what I listened to.
But the Riddler stuff is the only stuff that I actually I don't listen to. It's the what is it? What's his name?
Enigma.
Enigma. Yeah. I'm not even gonna get it.
Enigma. Nidegma.
All that stuff I can't stand. And so I skip that. But there's some just beefy music in there that, again, if you can divorce yourself from the Elfman stuff, like if that's your jam, you can really still get into the Golden Thought material.
I like the original '89 Batman film score. I didn't really care for Batman. Was it Batman Returns?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I listened to Mask of the Phantasm and wasn't quite doing it for me.
Oh no. I didn't think we were going to go there today.
I was trying to cover as much as I could.
No, it's interesting. It's interesting to hear somebody who really isn't like as excited as I am about the Batman scores.
Well, we can still be friends. I mean,
Oh no, it is. No, and it's fascinating. This is what I like about this stuff, because those Elfman and Goldenthal ones are just, I think those are just 5-star masterpieces. So I'm interested to know. I'd be interested to know. Well, Ian, first, what's your favorite out of, like, even the Zimmer stuff and all that, even the Balfe Lego Batman and Giacchino? Like, what's your jam?
I've listened to the Giacchino one, but I haven't seen the film yet, so I'm going to reserve judgment on that one.
Have you not listened to it?
I have listened to it, and
okay.
I do quite like it, but again, I haven't seen the film, so I can't place the music with the film at the moment. So, a lot of people had listened to the score and thinking, "Oh, this is, he's on autopilot. He's blah 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 blah." And I thought, we haven't seen the film yet. Give it a chance. But I quite liked it from what I heard. But until I've seen the film, I can't give you a full answer to that one. I was a huge fan of the Elfman scores, and then Goldenthal came along and knocked it out the park for me. When it came to Zimmer's score, I never understood the Zimmer James Newton Howard thing. I didn't understand who thought, we'll get these two guys and that they can do the score together. Newton Howard can do one portion of it, and Zimmer can. I never understood that, but
I bet Erik has an answer for that.
Yeah. They just wanted to work together.
Is that what it was?
That's literally what it was. They wanted a project to work together, and that was it. And I think the James Newton Howard material kind of adds a bit of humanity to it all, especially in The Dark Knight. I mean, he gets the Two-Face stuff down perfectly. The rest of it, it's very Hans Zimmer. And I think even when James Newton Howard was done The Dark Knight, he's like, I've said all I needed to say about this series. It's Hans's stuff, so I'll let him do the third one on his own. And Newton Howard's voice was essentially pretty much drowned out. It's really tough to figure out which tracks are his, but that Two-Face theme in The Dark Knight is distinctive. Very, very James Newton Howard. You can tell in those orchestrations, those airy strings, that's him. But yeah, the whole point was them to work together, because I mean, Zimmer helped out Howard very early on in his career, especially with Waterworld. Zimmer gave Newton Howard access to all of his sample library to use in Waterworld. So yeah, they're good buddies, and they needed something to work together on, and that's fine.
Can I get a Flatliners, please? Someday before I die. Can they read Flatliners, please?
Yeah, Flatliners would be amazing. It is amazing. It's so good. Hopefully, that seems like a job for Entrada.
Someone, please.
Yeah, or it could be La La Land. It's one of those two. Maybe Quartet will swing in and steal it from somebody. But it's Batman for me. Yeah, Elfman is always gonna be the king. And I recently watched the film again. It's just the mix. You don't get mixes like, I mean, there are only a few composers now that get mixes the way that films used to be mixed, and I mean Zimmer's one of them. But Danny Elfman's score is just up and front. It's punchy. It's helping tell the story. It's brilliant. And then, I mean, Batman Returns is truly Tim Burton's Batman. I mean, there's a lot of studio stuff going on with 89, but he basically made his version of Batman for Batman Returns, and Elfman also follows suit. It's a very traditional Tim Burton sounding Batman score, but it's so tragic. It's so dark. It's so perfect for that world. And the themes are, the Catwoman theme. Oh, the meowing fiddles, and it's so inventive. And so I really, really do love that score. And I wish he was around for Batman Forever, but I think Goldenthal's voice was the perfect voice for that, because he can write wild and just over the top, wacky, crazy music, and he fit those films perfectly. And but yeah, I think Shirley Walker's the one that's probably the most underrated score. It doesn't get talked about a lot, but even that film, I think, besides Batman, for me, is probably my second favorite Batman movie. That tied probably with The Dark Knight for me. But as for the score, it's exceptional. I think it's an exceptional score. So you should really give that one another chance. And then when you get into Zimmer's, I honestly do think that The Dark Knight is one of the best superhero scores ever written. And it probably goes down to just a genius idea of one note for the Joker. And I hated it when I first heard it. But then again, when you're thinking about context,
I love it.
That's Joker all wrapped up in one note, and it's brilliant, I think.
I saw an interview with Christopher Nolan. I don't know what it was, the interview he did with Richard Donner, but they got talking about music, because they're obviously discussing John Williams and Superman, and then Richard Donner was mentioning, you know, the music for The Dark Knight, and he mentioned that, you know, the music when it came to the Joker. He said Hans would send him 20 hours of variations on that one note, and he would listen to the whole, you know, the full 20 hours. To put that amount of effort into just one, what would seem like nothing. He's obviously thought it out, but it's hard to actually call it music, but it is music. But it's an amazing thing to hear in the film. When you hear that note, that noise, it's just the tension that it brings to the film is incredible.
Yeah.
Not a great listen to. I mean, I couldn't listen to 20 hours of it, but brilliant.
Yeah, I think like anytime I hear it when I'm listening to the album, that's when I'll stop and I'm like, well, this is, and it's literally the same thing over and over, but it makes such a powerful statement. And usually I'm not up for Zimmer's gimmicks. Sometimes it gets way too much. It's publicized way too much, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Like the Dunkirk stuff, no. No,
Yeah.
that's not that's too much. But like when I heard, like, I'm gonna do one note, I'm gonna have all these different sounds, it's gonna build I'm like, what are you talking about? And I heard it, I'm like, but yeah, once I saw it in context, you're just like, oh my god, does Hans Zimmer get the character? Just gets them. And that's what's great. I think for all the criticism that Zimmer gets, I really do think he takes the time to care about the music, craft the music, make sure it's perfect for the characters, perfect for the stories. Whether or not he's writing it all, whether or not he's delegating it to his team or whatnot, it's still his work. It's still his ideas. And I really do think that, I mean, again, when we hear those sketchbook albums now that he's releasing, all those ideas eventually get formed into the original soundtrack recording. There might be, you already said 20 hours of it, but he's just playing. And I think that's great. He has the time to just play and experiment and find the voice for that film. And there aren't many composers, if any, that get that time nowadays to just fiddle and play. And so it's great when you hear like Giacchino talking about Batman, he had time to write themes or ideas. I'm not sure whether it was before editing or even filming, and he would send it to the director and go, here's the ideas that I have. And sometimes they'll play it on set. It happened with the Joker film, right? Hildur Gunnadottir's score was played for the bathroom dance sequence, whether you like it or not. But I just like the fact that now some composers do have that time to really absorb themselves into the project. And that's the sort of thinking that we had back when we're thinking about Miklos Rocha and studying for his music that he was going to write for Ben-Hur. I think it was Ben-Hur. It was one of those giant epics that he was doing. It took him like a year to figure out the sound or the music and research the music that he was going to write for that. And so I just wish that composers had more time to really concentrate and write and be more collaborative and have their ideas come forward than they do now. Because you find that, there's stuff that just the director's just going, sound like Zimmer, put it in there, or sound like this and put it in there. And you just kind of wish you weren't giving the composers 6 weeks. You're maybe giving them 2 or 3 months, or letting them come on set. Like Elfman was on set for Batman. He went to London. He was in Gotham. And then the classic story is on his way home, he's coming up with a Batman theme on the plane, singing into a tape recorder in the bathroom. That's amazing because he had the time to go and actually absorb himself into that project. And then there's the inspiration. You just wish that they would give composers that same amount of time that they used to have in the past.
Yeah, I think that's down to directors, really. You need a director that understands what film music will do for his film. And if, he gives the composer time, it's only going to work better for the film. Yeah.
I think you also have the trusting director. And again, like those established relationships that Giacchino has with his directors. I mean, I think that's what allows that type of work to be done. Same thing with Zimmer, with Nolan. I mean, they know each other, and now Zimmer with Villeneuve. That established working relationship, and so I think Villeneuve and Nolan know that, okay, if I can give Zimmer 6 months to come up with some ideas, I'm only going to get the best out of him because of that. So yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily for like writing an entire score beforehand and then just throwing it into the movie. But I think that if someone does that, I mean, Giacchino did what he wrote, like, I want to say 90 minutes of music for Jupiter Ascending before they filmed, and then they inserted the music into the edit. And then Giacchino, fixed his music to match the edit later on. But I mean, you hope that I mean, I don't mind that process. And I think composers really like that process because there's a lot of freedom. They can just write whatever they want. But I mean, there's some composers that are just writing stuff and just throwing it to them and go, all right, do whatever you want with it. And then all that stuff is thrown willy-nilly into the picture. I still think there's something to say about the actual collaboration and letting, your composer know what you want from them. And then they can go off and figure out those ideas. So I hope that's what's happening, especially with the way things are changing in music. And I hope, again, that more composers are given more time to maybe fiddle around and get onto a project a little earlier, and maybe not accept as many, film score projects in a year. So they at least have, they only got 1 or 2 in a year, and, they can spend 6 months working on one or the other. But I mean, I know that's pipe dream, and who knows what's happening back then. But anyway, I'm just kind of rambling. But
no, it's interesting you say that. When it came to Bram Stoker's Dracula in '92, now that correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard I'm probably going to butcher the name. Is it Wojciech Kilar?
Wojciech Kilar, yep.
Yeah.
I think that.
Didn't he just write a lot of pieces of music that could be used in different sections? He didn't know exactly where the music was going to be used,
right?
But he just did variations on things that they could basically just put in where they needed it.
Yeah.
But gave them a huge amount of music that they could cut and paste as they saw fit.
Yeah. And I think there was conversation between him and Francis Ford Coppola to make sure that what you're writing, like what you're writing for, like or
Yeah.
like, here, read the script, or here's we're gonna do a scene that's like this, or we're gonna do a montage like that, whatever. Then you get the idea of what you're going to write. I think Morricone wrote a lot of scores that way too. John Williams' JFK was written that way, because again, he didn't have time to. I forgot which film he was working on at that time. But yeah, it was like 6 or 7, 8 themes and cues that he handed over Oliver Stone and say,
it would have probably been Hook he was working on.
Oh, probably. You're right. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So, but I mean, the JFK stuff worked brilliantly.
Where's my JFK expanded score?
Well, see, and that's what's interesting is everything that John Williams wrote for him. I haven't seen the film in such a long time, but is all those themes, is that everything that he delivered to Stone? I don't know. And did he tweak it? Like, did he eventually go back and tweak it? I have no idea. I don't know what the story is behind it, but I just know that from what I've read, that actually came out of Oliver Stone's mouth. He's like, yeah, John Williams just gave me these cues and I could just use them but they were based on specific ideas that were happening. I mean, there's the motorcade cue, which is definitely, written for one specific moment in that film. But I find that very fascinating that you're not, like, I always feel that the art of film scoring is, you're watching the picture and then you're writing to specific moments. I always felt that was like the best way to go about it. But I find that now I'm reading a lot of composers nowadays just want that freedom to, write a bunch of library cues essentially and just go, here, do what you will with it. They like that because, again, they can sort of write pure music and not be dictated by a specific range of time or specific hit points, and then the directors have the freedom to do what they want with the music. So I don't know where I stand on that, and whether that's a good thing or whether it's a bad thing, but I know that composers like the idea.
I think the problem I could foresee with that is that skills will be lost if people are just writing a piece of music that they can overlay onto a whole series of scenes rather than composing specific cues and hitting sync points within a set piece, for example.
Yeah,
it's just beyond me how composers do that. I mean, John Williams was saying that the opening chase in The Last Crusade, with the train, he said there was something like however many sync points.
A lot.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. But it adds to the magic of that scene, and that's where I think that's where I'm at. Where I don't mind a composer, I think, writing a whole bunch of ideas, but then I really do think that they need to go back and they have to then see the film and understand the dramatic needs of the film to see the character's arc or the way that the story is being told, so that maybe you hint at one theme here and then you develop it over here, or you're doing, and I think that's the strength of composing to picture, is then you understand the ebbs and flows of that film. And there's no way John Williams writes a piece like Indy's First Adventure without seeing the film and hitting all of those sync points. And again, I'm you don't always have to do that. Jerry Goldsmith would write action music that just goes right through a scene. It works, but I mean, rarely would you see him like Williams will write something for a trip or a fall or a cut in the scene, and that's an incredible skill. And I think that makes that scene, the Indy's First Adventure, that much more rewarding for sure when John Williams does something like that. And then of course when he presents it in concert, and showing everybody, he's like, hey, here's what I did for this scene. I think it's just so great. So yeah, there's something to be said about, close collaboration with the director, understanding the dramatic needs and wants of the film, but then also seeing it and understanding the pace. That's the other thing, the pace of it. John Williams once said that, Spielberg's scenes just move along at a very specific rhythm. And that's where you find your inspiration for an action track or a love scene or whatever. And it's tough to do when you just base your ideas on a script and in your own imagination, because that's not who you're writing for. That's the other thing. It's I've heard a couple of composers where it's like, forget the film, I'm just writing what I see in my head. I'm like, well, that's not film music. That is definitely not film music. You are not servicing the film. And I know that's tough. That must be tough as a musician to go, I am a slave to the picture. That must be a very, very difficult thing to do. And be just so precise mathematically as well. But that's what makes film. That's the job, and that's what makes film composers. I mean, I know they all want to be called composers, but they are film composers as well. It's a very specific technical skill, and I think Ian said it as right as well. It's like that we don't want to lose that. We don't want to lose that that skill with just composing something based on whatever you see in your head or just on a script. I think that's also why we like film music. I think we like the way that it syncs to the picture. I mean, we can still enjoy it on its own for what it's worth, but I think that hearing a particular piece and then just remembering what it sounds like in the film and how it, you know, those two elements come together, I think it's absolutely, that's what fascinates us about film music.
Yeah. And John Williams always had the knack as well when it came to hitting these sync points and specific actions in the music, keeping it as a piece of music as well, keeping it musical rather than just having the orchestra stab at something because something's happened. It seems like if you listen to it away from the picture, it doesn't seem like a jarring series of notes for no reason. It's a piece of music. And to me, that is just an incredible skill.
Yeah, I agree.
Like another thing though with films nowadays, when do you truly have picture lock? When they actually send it out to the theaters? Because you'll have a film and it's done in theory, and it goes to test audience, comes back with a crappy score. They spend another month reshooting it, re-editing it. Does he then have time to come back and redo it? Or is it just going to be the director, the producer, editor in a room? We got to just make this jive. And you can have a movie that was shot and scored and in theory finished, but then it's like, whoa, we got to change this. Like look at Justice League. The Zack Snyder cut, even if you take out a lot of the slow motion stuff and compare it to the Josh Whedon cut, entirely different film.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and like I think John Williams, especially if he was doing a film, he was generally doing films for grown-ups. Steven Spielberg are some high-end adult director who's not cutting his teeth, who knows his project. He's on schedule. He's ahead of schedule. They got plenty of time built in. It's not like, oh, you're 2 months behind. We got to make this release date. I don't care. Hurry up, get it done. And I think that greatly benefited Williams. But the young crop coming up today, you want a job. You got bills to pay. You got a name to make. You need to put out a body of work. Guy comes to you, he's like, look, you got 3 weeks to write it. You got 1 week to score it. And then 2 weeks later, it's probably going to be in the theater. Do it. And I think a lot just the way that filmmaking has changed. And
it has.
And I know it takes money to call an orchestra back because you got to book that time and you got to pay those people. So are you just going to like redo it in post, or are you going to call everyone back and redo it?
The big thing is technology has definitely changed, and that's influencing the way that you're releasing films, editing films, even with film scores. The day of trusting your composer to play a piano melody for you and then say, well, that's my theme for the film, and trust me, 6 weeks from now it's going to sound great. And then you just kind of go, all right, I trust you. I'll see you in 6 weeks. And then the first time that you hear this score is fully realized is there on the stage, and you're spending millions of dollars or thousands and thousands of dollars, every minute, every hour. And then who knows what happens if you hate it. And that's where it's one of the, I think maybe one of the only, if the only aspect of filmmaking that is pretty much truly out of the director's control. And that must be very difficult. I mean, I've directed a few things in my life, and I've handed over some, I'm like, here you go, and hopefully the score is coming back sounding the way that I want it to sound. Whereas a director, you control the editing, you're approving all the special effects, how they're supposed to be look. You've got a storyboard, how things are supposed to be editing. You've already seen the concepts, you've approved those concepts, but now you're at the last, segment of the filmmaking process, and music is out of your control, unless you're a composer yourself, which is rare. And that must be very difficult. So that's why now, on top of the 6-week schedule that a composer has, they have to not only compose, but now you have to realize full demos that have to sound 100% like a real orchestra, because you got to put that up against the cut and hopefully get that cue approved before you're going to the recording session. The added pressure of doing that. I mean, can you imagine John Williams having to do that? It's impossible. He's a pen and paper guy. He'll play you a few themes, and you're like, all right, you go to a spotting session, write a few notes, and it's Williams and his orchestrator, and that's it. They're now writing for however long it needs to be until the recording session. And I think directors have a very difficult time now, even producers, again, with the amount of money that is put into filmmaking and films. I mean, you cannot be at the recording stage and go, oh my God, I can't believe we haven't heard this before and it sucks, or that's not what we wanted. And that's going to cost so much money. It's going to be so much time. And that's so tough. That is so tough. I mean, you can't not just be a composer nowadays, right? You have to know the intricates, all the details with samples and computers and all that sort of stuff. And you wonder why composers have teams nowadays to try to get these things done. There's so much pressure to do that. And then you have to get good music written. It's the pressure for a composer nowadays. It's unbelievable. I mean, you had pressure back then, but I mean, now, holy smokes, I would hate to be a composer nowadays, just for the amount of approvals that have to be done. And it's like, if they hate that cue, it's like, well, I've just spent 3 days working on that cue. Now I got to go back to and we're not even at the recording session. It's like, oh, you hate that theme? Well, what do I do now? But now you can see how it also affects John Williams when he's writing Star Wars. And there's a reason why they didn't go to London. It's because they needed 3 separate sessions for LA, for him to be writing in LA, for the first session, now start putting music up against whatever cut they have at that point, and then realizing, okay, we need to make those changes. John, go make these changes. John then works for another few weeks, and then they go to a second recording session. Well, I mean, are you going to fly back and forth from LA to London? No. So Williams can now write, take a quick drive over to the LA scoring stage and now go to his second session. Now they put it up against another cut that's changed. Why? Because, well, digital editing, you literally can change that edit up to the last second. Back in the day, you couldn't. It was impossible. You just couldn't, because of the nature of film, right? Are you going to really cut up your final negative at the last second? No, because you got prints that got to be made. And so, I mean, John Williams, from what I heard, but especially with The Force Awakens, and I think maybe even the other Star Wars scores, he was doing 3 separate sessions because of the amount of changes that are being made to the cut. And that's just nuts, but that's the way film is being made now. I mean, you can change it for an infinite amount of times before you finally release it, because all you have to do is just render it out the night before and then send it to everybody over the internet. Now they have the film ready to project. It's amazing how it's changed, but it's technology that's making these big changes. And it's affecting composers, sometimes in a negative way.
That's why you need this close working relationship between the composer and the director. The director says, this is what I want, and he works with the composer to get the score that he wants, so that when they get to the recording stage, they go, oh my God, that's awful. Yeah. Let's get another composer. Maurice Jarre on The River Wild.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
Gone. Randy Newman on Air Force One. Let's get
who thought that was a good idea?
I don't know. It wasn't.
But you know what I mean? To get to that stage where you've recorded a full score with an orchestra and go, no, I don't think so.
I mean, but could you imagine? I mean, like Richard Donner and Jerry Goldsmith finally getting back together for the first time since The Omen, and then you are like Richard Donner's like, and he takes full responsibility. Like, I'm the one that screwed up. Your music is brilliant, but I totally screwed up. I gave you the wrong notes, the wrong. Can you fix it? And just like, this is all I got.
No.
I can't. I mean, that's how it's. But then you could see why. Then it's like the studio is like, okay, wait, how do we stop this from happening again? Because I mean, Donner cannot be babysitting Goldsmith during his writing sessions because he's also finalizing special effects, finalizing the edit, doing all the other things that directors have to do. Where again, you're trusting your composer to take what you have said and do it right. And Jerry Goldsmith did it right, but based on the wrong information. So, but now it's like, all right, well, how do we stop this? Well, we get demos beforehand. We get stuff that sounds so good that you could even put in the film right now and nobody would tell. But we got to get those done beforehand before we go to the recording session because we cannot have another rejected score.
Yeah, I'm not a technical person. I've heard some of Zimmer's, mock-ups, his demos, and I'm thinking, that's not a demo. That's an actual score piece, isn't it?
Yeah,
they sound so good. It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean the stuff that David Cassina is writing for me for my podcast, I'm blown away. There's stuff that he's sending to me that he's writing on. It's a program called StaffPad, and you can write music just on your iPad. But the processing power and the samples that come along with it, he's sending me these pieces that he's like, oh, I just threw this together like in the last 4 hours, and it's a fully realized 4-piece horn concerto. And I'm like, wait. This sounds like it was recorded, like at whatever stage you were at. Like how it sounds so good, but that's now what producers are expecting from the demo stage. And if you don't deliver that, then you're not getting the job. It's insane to be a film composer these days, because the days of those pencil and pen guys and writing, like you just can't do it the way that Goldsmith, Horner, and Williams did. It's impossible unless you are, well, I mean, Hans Zimmer doesn't do it. I mean, you have the most powerful, like Giacchino. I mean, I'm sure Giacchino doesn't do it. I'm sure he's writing a computer as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard some of his early demos, and that's what he was doing. He was demoing back when he was doing video games. So, yeah, it's definitely changed. Technology has definitely changed things. And I can understand it. I totally can understand it. But then it's like, all right, well, why don't you give your composer 2 months instead of 6 weeks to get it done? But well, wait, we're still cutting the film. Whereas, when the composer back in the day is conducting, usually that's, I mean, how many times do you hear a film score so chopped up in the movie back then? It's rare. It's really rare to hear it. I mean, you would never hear a Phantom Menace type edit in a score 10 years earlier because it just didn't have the technology. But again, that's what happened with Phantom Menace, right? They're editing right to the last second. So Williams' score gets all chopped up. Can't go back to London to re-record it because that costs money. Williams is off doing Angela's Ashes, and then that becomes that mess. Sucks. It's really too bad. I would love to see the cut that John Williams wrote to. I mean, I think that would be absolutely fascinating just to hear his music from start to finish without it being chewed up in the edit.
It's like music from the Phantom Menace cropped up in Revenge of the Sith as well.
Mm-hmm.
I just like to, sometimes when they've reused a piece of music from another film in a sequel, I wonder what was the original piece of music like that they actually composed for that scene.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's much like, I mean, the rumor is, and I'm not sure whether it's true or not, but I mean, I don't think Williams scored any of the major battle music during Attack of the Clones, and that's why it's all tracked music. I don't think he had the time. I don't even think it was ready. I'm sure there was just like, all right, well, this is where the battle is. We don't have anything for you, so we'll just plop in your music from Phantom Menace into this section. The thing is, the majority of people don't really care. They don't notice it. I mean, I'm sure my wife and my kids won't notice it when they watch that movie, but I mean, it must be disheartening for a composer to, especially like John Williams, to see, like, man, look at this big battle music, and I didn't even get a chance to write one note for it. It just sucks, and it's
I
just
kind
and
of
they're
think
just
he
throwing my
probably,
crappy edited music into this.
I kind of think he probably never, he might have watched the completed film once. Because he says, he's like, I don't really ever watch the films. You know, I do it and that's it. It's over.
Oh, right, yeah. But I'm sure. I mean, someone must have told them about what they did to Phantom Menace, or even all of the Star Wars scores. That must have done something.
I'm not sure. I mean, 'cause last time I saw him in concert, that he was talking about E.T. and he said, he was telling the story about how, you know, they decided to do E.T. and have the orchestra play the music to the movie, and this was the
Right.
first time this was going to be done. And he's like, yeah, so I got a call from Steven, and he asked me if I wanted to do this, and I was like, yeah, sure. So I went over to his office, and we sat down, and I saw the film for the first time since the first time I watched it, and I thought, I think we did a pretty good job with that one.
Yeah.
He apparently hadn't seen the film since he worked on it. And that's
Right.
hard for me to believe because, hell, I watch ET like once a year. But he just doesn't seem like the kind of guy. He says he doesn't really listen to film music. He doesn't listen to his own music. He says he's surprised that it's as popular as it is. I mean, he's an incredibly humble guy. And he's just not in the same world that we are. It's like I see things on YouTube, guys talking about comic books and how the comic book's different from the film. And I'm like, okay, look, the guy that made the movie doesn't love the comic book as much as you do. The guy playing Thor doesn't love Thor as much as you love Thor. He doesn't have every issue CGC graded 9.0. He doesn't have that. He's just doing a job. And I think that's a bot,
That's a
right?
bot.
Yes. There you go.
Sounds good. Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying. Like Williams would even has said recently that he had just never had the time to just enjoy music, the way that he used to, and now he does. I mean, he ever since he's close to retiring, but he's now going to be able. He's going to be able to, write music for himself, which is fine. But I think he's enjoying now other people's music that he never had a chance to enjoy before. And I think that's fine. It's great.
But we are going to get one more indie score. So that's fine by me.
Yeah, we get one more indie score. And I think he just finished recording that Spielberg movie, The Fabelman. So yeah, to get those, and we're getting the Obi-Wan theme. So that'll be interesting. I mean, it's funny how he still just wants to dip his toes into Star Wars still. He can't step away. He can't.
He keeps saying he's finished, but they keep asking him and he goes, okay.
Yeah, I'll do it.
I got fried on a message. Someone on YouTube broke like, here's a rumor that John Williams is scoring the Obi-Wan series, blah, 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 blah. And I just put a comment and I'm like, look, guys, we do this all the time. Someone comes out with I have unconfirmed sources. And I'm like, okay, I wouldn't put too much hype into this. He said he's done with Star Wars. It hasn't been on any of the John Williams groups. And they're usually pretty Johnny on the spot about things. So just take it as a rumor. Don't get your hopes up. It'd be great if it happens. But just don't put too much of yourself into this, because I've made this mistake. You put all this emotional energy into something and it's like, oh, hell. And man, people just tore me up. Like, why do you not like John Williams? Why are you saying this? Why are you a hater? I'm like, people, read what I wrote. I said, it's an unconfirmed rumor. I understand YouTube. If you want to get clicks, you want to get put at the top of the list for the day. I'm not knocking anyone. It's a rumor. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. And then it came back to be true. And I was like,
well, I mean, what I'm interested though is I'm wondering who is scoring it, and the fact that hasn't leaked out yet.
Yeah, we still don't know.
Is amazing. But I would love that. I mean, I follow Gordy Hobb on Facebook, and he's just posting all these photos from Abbey Road, and he's recording I think he's recording they say it's a Star Wars game, but he's there for a month. He says he's there for the month, and I'm like, oh, they're there for a month, huh?
Decent time.
And you're about a month out of Obi-Wan. The fact that everybody's been wanting Gordy Hobb to score some sort of Star Wars show or movie for the longest time, I think him having a crack at Obi-Wan would be quite interesting. I mean, if there's anybody that's going to keep that sort of John Williams Star Wars sound alive, it's him, because of his work on the Star Wars games, which sound pretty much identical to what Williams' style is for the sequel films. So it'd be interesting if he was doing it. But I mean, they said that the scores are being recorded in London, and that's where Hobb is right now. It'd be neat. I'm interested. I'm really interested in this series. I'm I think out of all I mean, if they did a solo miniseries, I think I'd be excited about that too. I think there's so much potential, but I think the Obi-Wan one could be really, really interesting.
Who is it that played Solo in the film?
Alden Ehrenreich.
Yeah, if they brought him back for a series on Disney Plus, I think that would be great.
I think so too.
I think he did a good job. I was pleased with his performance.
And within 5 minutes, I was convinced that he was a young Han Solo.
Well, you know, tell the truth. I actually really enjoyed that Solo film, and I was really disappointed. I was so disappointed that it wasn't the success it should have been. Right.
It felt like to me, it was like a pure Star Wars adventure. Like we grew up watching the first movie, and the best thing about it is that you're following basically one character on one adventure. You're not doing 5 or 6 different, adventures with different characters and cutting it all. It just felt like it had a wonderful flow. We were following this character, and that all worked. But I mean, even those 2 action sequences were marvelous. I mean, 2 of the best, I think, in Star Wars history. If it was up to me, I thought the train sequence was awesome. The whole Kessel Run. I mean, I knew the Kessel Run, that's fan service, but my goodness, did they pull it off?
Do you know what? When I first saw the trailer for Solo, they showed the Kessel, or clips from the Kessel Run sequence in the trailer, and it just looked a bit goofy to me. It looked, what is this? But when you see the actual film, it's just a blast. That whole scene,
thrilling.
And with that music, calling back to Empire and the Asteroid Field.
Yeah.
Yes.
My favorite moment is when they finally inject that special sauce into the hyperdrive, and Powell's music dun 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 dun, right? And moves into the Rebel fanfare. You're like, oh, that's pure Star Wars, and that was what was missing from. I mean, I sort of got it from Rogue One, but I still didn't feel like Rogue One was a really good, complete film. But Solo just felt like a proper Star Wars adventure, and it's just ripe for the picking for a series. I mean, just think about going on. But the thing is, what I would hope is that they wouldn't do it like they're doing a lot of these series now, where it's just one linear story throughout 10 episodes. I would love for him to go on, like a whole bunch of 2-parters throughout the series, right? He would like have to go do something here, and then 3 episodes later he does something else. But I mean, you might have a weaving story in there somewhere, but I would just a whole bunch of different adventures, like a classic television show used to be. I think that would be so much fun. It would be so much fun because he was so good at it. I thought he was so good.
Yeah, you could just call the show The Adventures of Han. As you say, have a couple of 2-parters.
Totally.
I'd watch that.
And do that with Indiana Jones. I mean, Daniel and I have talked about doing I would love to see an animated Indiana Jones adventure.
I think that's the best bet.
It would be great. It would be so good. You know how much fun that would be? That would be, you can go anywhere at any time with an animated Indiana Jones.
Yeah. You don't have to worry about who you're casting.
Right.
But
you can even bring back classic characters and right. And it's like you don't have to worry about age. You don't have to worry about anything like that. And you can take them on.
Indy's got a history with Belloc. I would love to see more of that story.
Yeah.
It would be so much fun. Or, like even I would do an entire like series on just the build up to Club Obi-Wan, right? Imagine that, how he met Short Round.
What was he? How did he get the Muhachi or whatever it is?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole adventure there would be so neat. Or adapt some of the video games, like Fate of Atlantis would be great as an adaptation. So yeah, I mean, that would be. It's funny that the Indiana Jones brand itself just doesn't seem to be as popular with many people as other properties are. It's really strange. You think there would be more out there, but
yeah, I mean, the films for so long were tied to Steven Spielberg. It was Steven Spielberg's films until this last one where he stepped away. And who's directing the new one?
James Mangold.
James Mangold, which I think is a great choice. It'd be interesting to see what he does with it. But
I agree.
Yeah, the last time we had anything Indiana Jones was early 90s with the Young Indiana Jones,
right?
The TV series.
And those were
I'd
fun.
like to bring Remy. That was the guy's name. You can bring him back.
Remy, yeah.
There's so much.
There is potential. There's definitely potential with them, and I think those like Solo and Indiana Jones would be a lot more interesting than some of the things that they've brought out recently. But yeah, it's doing them right. But I mean, I guess we see what they're doing with this new Indiana Jones adventure and how that all kind of ends and wraps itself up. But it would be great if they were doing. Yeah, I think Indiana Jones and Solo are just perfect for Disney Plus. Absolutely perfect.
It's amazing to me that they were filming the new Indiana Jones film 40 miles away from me in Glasgow.
Oh wow!
So
was that the castle set?
No, they had streets in Glasgow all made up for a ticker tape parade. In New York,
right?
And
there's supposed to be some
Indy on a horse.
Yeah, Indiana horse chase. Yeah, that's right.
So,
yeah, we'll see how that works out. Yeah. I think it's the time travel adventure that everybody's talking about, and that should be fascinating. I mean, they did Aliens. Might as well do time travel.
Wasn't it you on something recently that said that you were a bit worried about Harrison Ford? He's looking a bit frail.
Yeah.
I don't think that. I think he still looks fairly strong.
I think just based on some of the stuff that I've seen him in, and just even hearing like from interviews, he sort of has the it's getting into something that could be related. Like watching Star Trek Picard is really weird because Picard was always a very strong character. Picard looks very frail, and that also has to do with the voice. Patrick Stewart's
he sounds that he's lost that kind of gravitas.
He had a great strong voice, very very deep, and Harrison Ford had a very distinct voice as well, and it's getting very kind of old and scratchy and frail, and it's really strange to hear that. But he looked, there was a couple of pictures I saw and I'm like, oh boy. I mean, I get it. I mean, I understand how old he is, but there's some, I mean, I don't know if they're going to be doing face replacement or not, because I did see some behind the scenes footage of there's dots on his face for the face replacement. So I'm interested to see where they're taking the character, and I don't, they can take it wherever they want, honestly, right now, because I'm with James Mangold, who did Logan. I'm okay with him taking over Indy, and if they do anything half as good as that, I think we're going to be fine. But it's just what they're going to do with 70-year-old Harrison Ford. I don't know.
I say we'll see when it comes out.
Yeah, we will, and I hope it's good. It's good.
So do I.
Yeah. What else we got?
Anyway, I wanted to. We kind of screamed past Batman.
Yeah.
But this was probably one of the last LPs that I bought in 1989. But I didn't buy it. My dad bought it for me. I was in the Falklands at the time when Batman came out in the summer of '89. So I telephoned him and said, "Look, can you buy the LP for me?" because I'm going to miss out. I'm going to miss out on seeing the film. I also missed out on Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade as well, which came out that summer, and so I got them to buy the LP. So this LP and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade were the two last LPs that I ever bought because I was on the other side of the planet. I just wanted to mention that.
That's amazing. I just recently watched an interview with Danny Elfman where they were talking about, I think it was an interview with John Burlingame. Really fascinating. But he was talking about it. I'm not sure whether this is true or not, but he was mentioning that they were only going to release the Prince album as the soundtrack album for the tie-in with the movie. But then one of the producers, finally, they went to the sessions in London, heard the music, and they're like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to release a score album as well. And Danny Elfman's like, I think this is the first time ever that they released a song album and a score album simultaneously. Although I think the score album came out months later. But it was something really special. Like, we have never done this before, but we're going to do this now. We're going to release 2 soundtrack albums. And I think Batman, according to Danny Elfman, was the first film to ever do that, which I'm thinking that can't be, but maybe he's right. I don't know. I don't remember if there was ever a time where it almost seems like a normal thing now where, you'd have a song track and then the score album. But the fact that it's like 89 was the genesis of that idea, which is really strange, honestly.
It sounds about right. I can't think of anything before that because up until that point, really, a lot of soundtracks just came out with songs on rather than the score. Look at the Back to the Future soundtrack from '85. That had, I think, it was just 2 tracks of
2,
and it was kind of edited portions of Silvestri's score. Yeah, and the Goonies. What a travesty that was.
Yes.
I know.
When did we finally get the score? Was it that 25th anniversary one? Was that the actual release of the score?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That was Varese, and then now that's out on LP and it's out on CD again. And I think it was also part of another box set that there was that 1985 box set that Varese put together. So they put that album in there.
That's what I want to mention. You mentioned we were talking about David Newman earlier on. How he did as part of that Varese 85 one, he did the re-recordings of his re-recording of music from Rambo First Blood Part 2 is one of the best re-recordings I've ever heard of Jerry Goldsmith. And to get the electronics the way he did, it's just a fabulous cue.
Now you mentioned that. Yeah, I'm producing a Jerry Goldsmith re-recording show, and I might put that one in instead of the Kunzel version. Because I put tons of Kunzel in my show anyway, but I might do that version instead. I'm gonna have a listen when we're done. But you might be right. That album is really, really good.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna have to listen to that Rambo bit because now I might want to put that in instead.
It's superb.
Oh, great stuff. Cool. Do you have that album?
Yeah, I do.
Did you get the set, or did you just get the?
I thought I was buying the set, but the eBay seller sent me the non-set version.
Oh, okay.
Isn't it just one CD of David Newman's re-recordings, and then it's just soundtracks that make up the other 5 discs?
Yeah, that's right.
Actual complete soundtracks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I jacked up the price of the album by doing that. So
yeah.
I mean, they did that with the Stephen King set too, right? That was the only time you can get the Dreamcatcher expanded edition.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Well, it's the same thing with Scream. What's the expanded edition in that Scream set that's only available? Is it Scream 4 or Scream 4? I think is expanded in that set, and it's not available by itself at all. I'm like, that's such a weird decision to make. But
don't get me started on that kind of thing.
It's really gimmicky and just seems like it's awful. Like, you're going to spend all that money just for the Stephen King set, I think all of that was released before except for the Dreamcatcher one. I'm like, why? And it took years for Dreamcatcher then to come out again by itself. Yeah. I'm with you. I don't like that at all. So, but think about, what do you guys think about, like record labels now where they'd have a 2 CD set, like much like Star Trek, the motion picture, where it was a 3 CD set, now it's only 2. Or like with Back to the Future, the only thing that's in print is the 1 CD set, which is fine. It's the complete score, but you're missing out on the second disc, which had all that early stuff. I'm glad that's out there for people who want it, and I think that those are even unlimited anyway. But I mean, people now can't get that extra music without buying, and spending hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, when it comes to the Star Trek one, I don't know whether it was the right thing, or I don't know why they didn't kind of remaster the 3-disc one. People have had the 3-disc one. Do they buy the new 2-disc one because it has been remastered?
I did.
It gets confusing after a while.
I bought it. I was not going to buy it, and everyone on Facebook was saying the sound was just amazing, and I'm like, okay, click.
There's a different mix on a few tracks, honestly. The Spock Walk, I think that's what it's called. The spacewalk that Spock does. There's the electronics, I think, are mixed a little higher in the mix. But as for sound, I've compared them both, and I mean, if you have the 3 CD set, I think you're fine. But I think they wanted to make this like the definitive release, and it's mainly to get that original album also completely remixed properly, which they didn't get a chance to do when the Columbia version came out, which was, I think, a Fort Thaxton produced album, and they just kind of rushed that out. It was a 20th anniversary disc, I think.
Yeah, and it came with that
the second one.
The second disc was a recording of it was a Gene Roddenberry kind of thing where they had all the cast and crew on stage. It must be like a convention thing. It was
Inside Star Trek with Gene Roddenberry.
That's it.
I just bought the 6 CD set from Band.
Which one? The 80? The
85? Yeah.
Do you have all the other albums? Or
what else does it comes with?
I forgot what it came with.
Let me go look.
You've bought it and you've no idea what's on it.
Don't judge me. You're not my judge. Golly.
That's quite funny.
Load. I usually end up buying something every time I do a show with you, Eric.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, it's Eric's fault.
Your wallet hates you. Yeah, I don't even remember what was on that release.
I was thinking, doesn't it have a DVD with it?
I would think so for that price.
Yeah, I'm looking to see. So Discogs, I think that might just be the single disc release. Oh, yeah. I don't know what else was on the set. Oh, here it is.
Oh, such small print.
Holy cow. It was $99 to buy the 6 CD set.
Wow. I just paid $55 for it.
All right. So this is what you got on it.
Disc 2 is some songs. I don't have any of those, I'm pretty sure.
Right. That's right. They did songs.
So disc 3, it's got Pee-wee's Big Adventure, The Bride, Spies Like Us, North and South, Enemy Mine, Jagged Edge, The Black Cauldron. Disc 4 is Out of Africa. I only have Out of Africa on LP, I think. And disc 5 is Back to the Future Trilogy, which I guess that's just a compilation.
That was the re-recording.
Back to Future the Ride. I don't have anything from that.
Yeah,
and then
pretty good.
Disc 6 is the Goonies soundtrack.
Okay.
So yeah, no, I'm fine with this. I don't feel like I duplicated anything.
Spies Like Us is a good score. Elmer Bernstein.
Yeah.
Bernstein.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the re-recording. That's interesting about the Back to the Future re-recording, because you listen to it and we're like, wow, those cuts sound so different. And the score sheets that were sent to Debney and the RSNO were the original score cues that Silvestri wrote before he changed them. So that's what they recorded instead. I thought that's kind of fascinating. Yeah, it's too bad that, because with Back to the Future 3 on that album, they just used the original soundtrack recording. I kind of wish that they re-recorded that as well, but they re-recorded portions of Back to the Future and Back to the Future 2 on that album. And that was the first time we heard, I think, the clock tower sequence on its own for the first time commercially, was on that album. And that was like 99 when that came out. And it was just nuts. And we all thought that was going to be the complete re-recording as well. Then it came out and you're like, nope, it's not. It's just portions. And it's not even the right cues. Yeah. For Judge Dredd, I'm glad we have the Silvestri score, but it would be interesting to hear what Goldsmith would have done with it.
I'm so glad they had the Goldsmith trailer music on that Entrada disc.
Well, and again, thanks to Varese, that was the first time we got to hear the Judge Dredd trailer music on its own on their Hollywood 95 album. It's fast, but
that always bothered me because there was a certain rhythm to Jerry Goldsmith's original, which was lost on that, as you say, fast version.
Well, McNeely took it at a breakneck speed.
A lick.
Yeah, it was very fast, but that was so interesting about those albums. Like 96, the 96 one, you get a suite from Tin Cup, which is the final finale track, but that still hasn't been made commercially available. It's only available on a promo,
and that's a spectacular piece of music.
Oh, it's so good. That and the there's a US Open cue, which is just marvelous. William Ross, so good. Oh, you were talking about getting more real William Ross scores.
Yeah.
Do you really want to break the bank? Because I can go to I can run it down for you. The stuff that you really want. Is Her Majesty any good? I can't remember. Okay, so you have My Dog Skip. I'm not sure whether My Fellow Americans was released commercially, but that one's a good one. September Dawn, you have that one?
I think it's in this box.
Okay.
Or one of these boxes. Or no, wait. It came last week. That's right.
Yeah, you definitely want T-Rex. You definitely want T-Rex. So, like I said, buy Soundtracks. I think still has it for the regular price.
Okay.
And you get a digital download with that as well. Young Black Stallion, but I think that's a promo. So, but that's great. It's a great score. And if you want to really, I know the title might turn you off, but A Very Harold and Kumar 3D Christmas. It's awesome. It's really good. It shouldn't be, but it's really good. And you did get Tale of Despero.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun.
Yep.
And there was another one. There's a horse. 50 to 1.
That's the title, 50 to 1.
Yep.
Okay.
His work on Harry Potter, was it Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets?
Yep, that's right.
How much of that, I know Williams gave him kind of, was it about 40, 45 minutes of score? Something along that sort of lines. How much work did William Ross actually put into that?
I've heard different stories from different people, ranging from it's all Ross to Ross just kind of, glued a few cues together here and there with previously existing music. I don't know what the percentage is, but I've heard like just wide range stories where, like, from one person told me it was, this cue, the one that you think is like, for instance, the Spiders cue, which I think is incredible. He goes, that's all William Ross. I'm like, are you serious? So I don't know how much Williams contributed to it. I know the themes are definitely his, But like, the Spiders feels like a Williams cue. Feels like it was like ripped right out of Indiana Jones, the Temple of Doom, this style.
Yeah.
The Big Fox the Phoenix finale action track, it just all feels like Williams. But then there are rumors William Ross contributed to the Star Wars films as well, the sequels. I mean, we know he conducted portions of the Force Awakens. So I don't know what the right answer is, and I don't think it'll ever come out, but I'm pretty sure Ross had quite a bit to do on Chamber of Secrets. I would say there's a lot more than what I think is being reported.
Yeah.
But I again, there's nothing wrong with that. Just look at the schedule that Williams had at that time. How does he get all that done? And even then, what it was 2000, that was 2002. So he's still working on Star Wars, but then it's 2005 is ridiculous. How I don't Memoirs or the Worlds. No, sorry, not 2005. It was 2004. Revenge of the Sith Memoirs. I think Minority Report. That was one. Whatever the one. There was one was like 4 amazing scores. Catch Me If You Can. I can't remember what year it was, but I don't know how he fit it all in and wrote all 4 amazing scores. I'm gonna look at his filmography and see if I can find the right answer here. Concertos. No. Where's his film work? It was either 2005 or 2004. Even his 2004 was ridiculous. Here we go.
2004 was The Terminal.
So 2004 was, so Azkaban and Terminal. Right. So then 2005 is Revenge of the Sith, War of the Worlds, Memoirs of a Geisha, and Munich.
Wow.
They're all different. And how do you find the time to do that? How? I don't get it. Like his 2002 is Attack of the Clones, Minority Report, Chamber of Secrets, and Catch Me If You Can. Like, come on, man. And then he puts out in 2001 AI and Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone or Philosopher's Stone. Like, jeez. Like, I mean, there aren't many people that talk about his early 2000s to mid 2000s, but that's a golden era as well.
Yeah, that's a busy time for Williams because he doesn't usually do that amount of scores in one year.
Right. And then he takes a break for 3 years after that in 2005.
Yeah, he's probably in hospital after that.
I think he did get a pacemaker put in at some point in there.
It was during. Wasn't that during Force Awakens? No, that was during Bridges. What was Bridge of Spies released? Yeah.
2000 and.
That's what kept him away from that. Bridge of Spies was 2015, or else he would have done that. But I think it's that's interesting. Is who Steven Spielberg's going to work with after Williams says I'm not doing this anymore.
Thomas Newman.
Or does he or is he going to go from composer to composer to composer?
That's what I was thinking.
How much fun is that for him, right? Like, and is one of them Hans Zimmer?
Well, he worked with Alan Silvestri on Ready Player One, which I thought was a great score. A few years previous to that, it was Thomas Newman for Bridge of Spies.
Awesome.
So, I mean, maybe he is going to just chop and change.
I think that'd be great. What would be awesome is if David Newman got a shot at writing a Spielberg score. That's a guy who needs to. I mean, and it has to be something like big. It just can't be a. Well, who knows? I mean, maybe David Newman was an Academy Award. Working on a Steven Spielberg drama. Who knows? But I mean, if there's a guy that just needs to be, brought to the forefront. I mean, he's a definite champion of film music.
Absolutely,
he champions it all the time. He's such a great ambassador.
Those concerts he does in Vienna all the time. They're just
stunning.
Yeah.
I would love to go to one of those. A friend of mine, Carol, who we were talking about, he went to the James Horner one. He says it was one of the most emotional things he's ever been a part of. They just look so great too. The production value. I love the way they light the concert hall. The performances all seem to be great, and they just pick a whole bunch of obscure stuff and you thought you would never hear ever performed or recorded. It's a fascinating.
I appreciate that a lot. I get tired of hearing the same things.
Yeah.
Do you know what I loved about that James Horner concert was when he eventually got up to pick up his prize and they played his Spider-Man theme, which was just so triumphant.
Right.
And you never hear that theme anywhere apart from
That's right.
the latest Spider-Man film, and it was great. It was absolutely great.
Yeah, and that's what I love about that sort. Those are the true film music concerts. I mean, every time you hear like, oh, we're gonna do, well, for instance, this summer the Toronto Symphony is doing the music of John Williams, and I'm like, oh, I think that'd be interesting to go. But I'm like, you know what? They're just gonna play the same old stuff over and over again, and I would love it for all. I mean, I know it's work, but I would love it if they presented them like classical concerts, where we're only going to present 3 scores or maybe even 2, but they're going to be extended, like symphonic suites, like 27 minutes of just one piece.
That would be better.
Play it like a symphony, and then on the break we get maybe a short suite from something else, and then we have a finale of the last 20 minutes of Independence Day. You know what I mean? Something like that, instead of just playing the typical concert tracks that we always get. And I think it's going to be great. Anybody that has never been to a John Williams concert that gets to hear that for the first time, again, superb. But I really do think that film music can be easily adapted into the concert hall, and it would be great to hear it that way. I thought that, and that much like we were talking about Chandos and the way they rearrange their music to sound more like classical pieces, like sustained, separate pieces of music that you can enjoy that doesn't have to be mirrored to the movie. I think that would be utterly fascinating. I don't know who would go though, right? Like, would you go, like, when you hear, oh, it's Beethoven's Ninth, and it's like, all right, we get to hear that again, but it's like, all right, now we got a night of Zemeckis films, and we're gonna do 27 minutes of Back to the Future, and then Suite from Contact, and God knows what else. Like, you
I
name
don't
it.
know. Yeah, I don't know how popular that would be
Right? It
to
wouldn't.
average concert goers who like films. They'll go and see all the famous themes, but they won't go and see 25 minutes of other stuff,
Right. Yeah.
as well as that famous theme.
I don't even think the regular concert goers would accept that. I mean,
Okay, well,
I would.
Yeah.
I would too. But okay, how about this? Instead of the Raiders March, you do the Desert Chase.
Oh yeah.
Instead of Imperial March, you do the Battle of Hoth.
I think, what I think would do it. I think you can do these concerts, live and concerts things, but I think you don't necessarily have to play like the whole movies. You can do like, okay, we're going to do a Spielberg night, but we're going to maybe even educate people. Like, hey, here's Indy's first adventure without music. Now we're going to play to it. I think that's fascinating. Or let's play to specific scenes from films and not just one. I mean, that's the only reason why these live and concerts are very successful, because you cannot play an entire score without the movie. People are going to see the movie, and they just happen to get a live symphony orchestra playing along with it. I think that's why it's so popular. I don't think it's the other way around. I think the people that like us are going to see it for the music. I think we're the rare ones. We're in the minority. Because I mean, have you guys both been to live in concerts at all?
I haven't seen one.
Okay.
No.
The weirdest thing in the world is that people will get up and walk out during the end credits. The movie's over, they're already gone, and I'm like,
oh Lord,
we're in
Boston Pops. It's Star Wars.
It's
a concert.
Everyone at Boston Pops walked out for the credits of Star Wars. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? And then came out after the fact, and everyone's gone.
That would have been mortifying.
They did it during Empire Strikes Back. I'm like, guys, you're about to hear one of the greatest pieces of music ever assembled, and you're leaving? Wow.
Do you know, when it comes to suites of music in concert, I've been to a number of John Williams film nights here with the RSNO in Edinburgh, and a couple of times they've done the Raiders March, but they've always coupled it with Marion's theme. So they do Marion's theme, and then you get the Raiders March with Marion's theme again.
Makes no sense.
It seems to be a bit redundant. Why don't they? I would love to see the end title suite from Temple of Doom.
Yes,
that would be great.
Yes, or even Last Crusade.
Last Crusade, yeah.
I personally think that all film music concerts should be end credit suites, because you could just pack in so much. See, that's the way you can pack in a million themes into one generous.
True.
I mean, could you imagine Could you imagine someone setting up Predator 2 for a concert? Like, think about that. I was like, and we're going to feature the bongo players from blah, 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 blah. And it's like, what for? Well, it's Predator 2, and check this out. That would knock everybody's socks off. And it's 9 minutes of just sheer energy. And I think that's fascinating. That's way more fascinating than hearing like the 3-minute version of Predator, the main title, although that would be great to hear as well. But I mean, that's where I think I would love to. I mean, God, I wish I had the money. I mean, end credits. We're playing the end credits suite. Then explain it to the audience and go, enjoy, just enjoy Cutthroat Island. This is a 9-minute barn burner. Enjoy that. Could you imagine hearing that? The place would go bananas.
That end credit suite from Cutthroat Island is just awesome.
That score has no business being that good.
No.
I mean, it's just that and Lair. I mean, when I heard Debney do the game for Lair, and then he teamed up with Kevin Casca. Holy smokes! Do you guys own any of Kevin Casca's music?
No, not familiar.
Okay, you want to spend some money, Daniel? I want you to buy an album called The Tone Poems of Kevin Casca.
How much is it going to cost me?
I don't know. And you could probably get it from his website. But you could probably hear it on YouTube first. So if you want to but there's a Battle for Atlantis. It's a 15-minute action cue that is essentially as if you cram together the Quidditch match from Prisoner of Azkaban, the chase through Coruscant from Attack of the Clones, and the Grievous chase from Revenge of the Sith. So think about those three getting just plowed together in one big giant 15-minute concert suite. It's mind-blowing. So if you like that kind of style of music, Kevin Casca, he was a student of, well, not a student, protege, John Williams. John Williams really liked his music, and I think Casca wrote a harp concerto in his honor or something like that. Anyway, Kevin Casca and John Williams have been coupled on an album before, and it's the trumpet concerto, Williams trumpet concerto with a couple of other Kevin Casca pieces. But Kevin Casca has a website, and you should be able to grab his albums from there. I'm going to put it in our private chat here. There's a link. He also has some demo music on YouTube as well. Dude knows his stuff. So he also did portions of Lair with John Debney. Unbelievable. So Casca, what's the film score that he did? The War of Vendy. So that's another one you won't find. Where's his where's his Tone Poems album? Oh, because it's under classical. Hold on. Casca. Yeah. So the one album is Trumpet Concerto, Harp Concerto, and Essay for Strings. So that's just Casca and Williams music. But then the Tone Poems of Kevin Casca. Okay, so it's 12 minutes. The Battle of Atlantis. Oh boy. And then the Golden Falcon ends it. It's like David Arnold. It's amazing. And then, like, are you a big fan of like Williams styled music? Like, would you be against hearing somebody to kind of aping his style and writing awesome music like that?
No.
Nope.
All right. There are 2 albums by a guy named Peter Boyer that you probably want to pick up or just listen to. If you want to listen to something beforehand, before you decide to buy, Peter Boyer, Boyer.
Okay.
So check out Silver Fanfare. So try to find that on YouTube and listen to it. And Celebration Overture. But the 2 albums that you want to probably find, and I think they're both through Naxos. Peter Boyer Symphony No. 1 and Other Orchestral Music. And then the music of Peter Boyer. They're glorious.
I downloaded these a few months ago. I think you posted something on this.
Good.
Yeah, you mentioned this sounds just like great film music.
Yeah.
And I went straight into that. No, it's great stuff. It really is.
It's so good. It's as if Williams had written, like, these are rejects of his Olympic ideas for some of this stuff, and he's so good at it. But like, there's a suite for, it's called 3 Olympics, which is great. His Symphony Number 1 is superb, and he's just recorded another suite of music with it was a London orchestra at Abbey Road. So that's coming out soon. So he's written new music. And then if you look for him on YouTube, there's an 8-track promo of, I think it was like Hollywood type music. Superb. And he's a guy who does a lot of orchestration work. He's worked closely with Giacchino as well. But man, if he ever got his music into a film, it'd be amazing. But he's so good. But yeah, Casca's wickedly talented. He's the one that reconstructed the Superman the movie recording for Varese when they couldn't find the score sheets. So Kevin Casca pretty much did it all on his own by ear. Yeah,
I remember you talking about that recording in your video, the 20 questions, and it is a great recording. I remember buying that when it first came out. Some of the orchestration in that, obviously because they've had to reconstruct it, some of the orchestration seems a bit odd for some of the pieces. Yeah. But not odd in a bad way. It's just somebody else's interpretation.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. That's what I like about it. I think it's about as close as you're going to get for somebody doing it by ear. Again, some of the conducting is there's a tempo issues, especially the one where the scene where teenage Superman is running beside the train. It's supposed to be a real upbeat kind of piece, and it's really slow. But I think for the most part, it's a wonderful listen. And the recording, like some of those RSNO recordings can get quite distant, but I think that one, I mean, their Williams stuff is really good. I think they were one of those rare orchestras that could really play Williams stuff like really good.
They get the precise nature of it and the scale as well.
Yeah.
The only drawback sometimes with their recordings, I don't know whether they record it through in Glasgow halls. It can, some of the detail can get lost.
Yes. Yeah, like the Bernard Herrmann stuff they did. I think it was Torn Curtain. It sounds like it was recorded across the street. Just really cavernous.
Yeah.
But other times, like when Jeff Foster was recording with them, so he did I think Hollywood 94, 95 recordings, and he recorded McNeely's Vertigo. Whew, that stuff sounds incredible. But then it went to Jonathan Allen, and I think he was a Bruce Botnick protege. I could be wrong, but I think he was also doing stuff in London. I mean, I know he recorded the victory celebration for Return of the Jedi, the new cut in '97. But for some reason, his Royal Scottish National Orchestra stuff was very distant, and they didn't even record it multi-track. I think it was all recorded 2-track, and then mixed by Botnick in LA. And it just like you can't really get much from a direct 2-track recording. So, but I mean have you guys listened to the Black Patch and the Man from Entrada?
Not yet.
Sweet Jesus. Oh my God. Now, if you want to hear an amazing Royal Scottish National Orchestra recording, holy crap, they got Simon Rhodes to record it as well. And he's like if you recognize his name, he recorded some Williams scores. Well, Harry Potter 1 and 2, Angela's Ashes, and I think the American Journey album, a lot of that is Simon Rhodes recording, and Cutthroat Island. So, but for some reason, I mean, he's very classical in his style of recording, but for this one, these are such intimate scores because they're smaller orchestras. And I think the RSNO has a new hall, right? A new recording stage.
Yeah.
Oh, mercy. It sounds incredible. I mean, unbelievable, the sound that comes out of it. It sounds like Goldsmith wrote a brand new score like yesterday. Phenomenal. So if you get a chance, like I backed them. This is the first time I backed them. I missed the Dial M for Murder one, and I'm glad I did. I'd be more than happy for more record labels to start re-recordings like this, because I'll send them $40 anytime. That's right. Yeah. Jim, you're right. Jim's a good guy.
Well,
I like
welcome,
Jim a
Jim.
lot.
Good to have you on the channel.
Yeah. Jim should do radio shows. You got to hear this guy's voice. He's also a very good guitarist. And I miss you, Jim, on our Zoom calls. I hope to see you again on one of them. It's another thing we do on every other weekend. But anyway, yeah, Jim's right. The Superman one, you're right. It's tough to replicate the LSO. And I think the Royal Scottish National Orchestra they do bang up work. Like I don't know if you've heard have you heard any of their Phantom Menace suite recording that they did in 1999?
Yeah, you mentioned it in a thread in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
When we're talking about Hollywood 95 and 96. I listened to their Phantom Menace stuff, and it sounds great.
The Flag Parade.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It is unreal how good that is. And even Duel of the Fates. I don't think any re-recording of Duel of the Fates has gotten the choir right, but the energy of the rest of the recording, like once the orchestra gets in, and wow, it's pretty stunning. And they do a great job on the Mummy. They do a suite from I think they do the Sandcastles cue. Not Sandcastles, lying, the Sand Volcano.
Sand Volcano, yeah.
Yeah. Sandcastles from number 2. And then they do a couple other recordings as well. But yeah, it's and Frederick Talgorn. Boy, you want another composer to spend your money on? Asterix aux Jeux Olympiques. Get on that one.
Heavy Metal 2000.
Heavy Metal 2000. Now, if you want to hear what it would sound like if Jerry Goldsmith and John Williams got together and wrote a score, Heavy Metal 2000.
Okay.
And I think it's available digitally, but I think the disc is a promo only, but you should be able to find it for a good price. It's ridiculous. What's the Red Rouge something? What's it called? I don't even know how to pronounce that word. Les Aiguilles Rouge. That's great. Yeah. Robot Jocks. That's fun. Robot Jocks is so much fun. But Talgorn, look him up. You'll have fun with his stuff. Oh, Molière, I think, is another one. Just that sumptuous, warm Williams string writing, but he also writes incredibly complex, very Williams-esque action music. Very good stuff. And if you could find some of his library music, he wrote a ton of production music, and all those albums are really good too. So, how much money are you spending now?
Most of my paycheck.
So I won't tell you about Philippe Rombi then.
Okay, save that for next time.
Yeah, once you get into Philip Rombi, oh my God, Angel. You heard that one, Ian?
No, I don't want to.
And then there's one called Un Homme Sans Chien, which will just wreck you. It's so good. And he wrote my favorite score of the year, and I can't pronounce it. Oh my goodness, what's it called?
Yeah, you haven't been pronouncing all those other French words, so just go ahead.
Yeah, I have to see it though to oh no. Les Temps. Oh, something Les Temps. Oh geez. It's amazing score. It's really good. Les Temps des Secrets. I'll put it in the chat. Best score of the year so far. So he wrote like Joyeux Noël. You heard that one? It's a great score. Yeah, Angel, Le Nom est son chien, Ricky. It's just sumptuous. Well, oh, oui, mais. Yeah, that one's good too. So good. I can keep going if you want.
Erik, stop listing stuff.
You'll never have time. But you know what? But the stuff that this stuff is like high quality. Like this isn't just like
it's all okay. High quality. That's the problem.
Yeah, but it's like it's just like you'll listen to Heavy Metal 2000. You're wondering where in the world that was in your life. It is really it is like as if Goldsmith and Williams got together and just said, this is what we're doing. It's enormous. I mean, the heavy metal score by Bernstein is really good, but this one just takes, like, when you want to talk about epic music, like when people use the word epic, this is just epic music. Monstrous. So yeah. Anyway, I think I got to call it a night. I think my children are hungry. I think.
I understand, and I know it's getting late for Sir Ian.
We should do this again.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was good. I enjoyed this.
What's good for y'all?
Oh, we can do this again. This time, I'm fine. You want to make this a weekly thing or a bi-weekly thing? I'm in.
Probably bi-weekly, I guess.
Cool.
Yeah.
Monthly, whatever.
What's 2 weeks from today?
2 weeks of.
2 weeks.
I don't know. 2 weeks.
2 weeks from now.
Monday,
the 18th. I might be away, but feel free to just talk amongst yourselves. But I know that week I'm busy shooting, but I'll probably know my schedule more towards the 14th or 15th, hopefully. But I know that there's at least 4 days of shooting in there somewhere.
Well, we'll do a date when you're available.
Yeah.
Yeah, like even on like weekends, I can do anything on weekends, but it's up to you guys whether
weekends are horrible for me.
Okay. Yeah, or like it doesn't have to be a Monday, but I'll let you know what my schedule is, and if we have to wait till, like, even if it's like if my schedule opens up on Wednesday or Thursday, if you guys are flexible during the week, then I'm okay as well.
What about you want to just shoot for next Monday? Because I know the 25th or 24th, whatever that Monday is, I'm in Pittsburgh for John Williams.
Okay. Yeah, we can do next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
Cool. We need a name for the show.
The Monday show.
The Mondays. The Mondays. Film Music Mondays. Monday. The Mondays.
Phil Monday.
Phil Monday. Well, we'll figure something out.
I was thinking the soundtrack studs, but
could be.
Graki Laka Paka.
What's this? Just encountered Erik for the first time, and he's spending a chunk of my money on scores. You're welcome. Hey, Anders, he was around. Oh, it's nice to see you. Great. Ask some questions next time. Get in on the action.
We will be back next Monday, same time, to talk about Batman once again.
Yeah, we should definitely talk about Batman.
Yeah.
I think that's, you know what? We should call it the Batman Show and never once talk about Batman.
Yeah, because we'll get loads of viewers if we put the Batman Show.
Whoa. That's right.
So what do you guys think about Batman? Well, have you heard that new John Williams score?
We could talk for 5 hours and they'll stay.
Absolutely,
just to wait for us to say Batman.
Yeah, no, it was fun.
Comments then, like, you didn't talk about Batman. Thank you for your comment. Did you like and subscribe?
What are you doing this week anyway? What films are you watching this week?
Well, we were going to do Battlestar Galactica. We were going to do 3 episodes last week, but I had tornadoes come through.
Oh my God.
Nothing happened. I had some rain, a bunch of tree limbs fell down, but that was it. And I'm okay with that.
Okay.
That's fine. But so that pushed that to this week, and then next week we're doing Bullet. And Retro Reels and I are going to do a like our best Bruce Willis movie soundtracks show next week.
Oh, nice. You gonna talk about Hudson Hawk?
It's so funny because when I had the thought to do this, I thought, well, what is there besides Die Hard? And I asked him, and he's like, well, what else is there besides Die Hard? I was like, there's like other stuff like that sci-fi movie where everyone's wearing like crazy costumes and but
Sixth Sense,
Armageddon,
the Fifth Element.
Oh, the Fifth Element. You're right. Yeah. Yes.
But I found a very charming James Horner score in Country.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's you're right. That is a very good score. I'm trying to think. Have you Death Becomes Her?
Yeah,
that's probably one of his best roles. As well. You could talk about Pulp Fiction.
He brought up Pulp Fiction, and I'm like, thank you for doing that because I never would have broached it because I know nothing about it.
You've never seen it?
I'm not a Tarantino person. He kind of comes across the wrong way to me, and I don't care for all the graphic violence.
Sure. Yeah. Then stay away. Clear. Yeah. Stay clear.
And
you don't want to know what happens to Marvin's head.
I really want to see that World War II film, but
yeah, that's God. Oh man. I want to say watch everything but he does like, I mean, I don't know what type of squibs he uses on bodies, but everything just explodes. But the thing is about Inglourious Bastards, if you're just in it to watch Christoph Waltz, you are going to be rewarded.
I saw the scene where he's interviewing, I think it's a farmer, and there's
so that's the first 30 minutes.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's a very compelling scene. And it's like, I want to watch the rest of the movie, but it's just going to be like blood and guts all over the place.
There's one guy is like a scalp hunter. And so, but think about it, he's only doing it to Nazis. So it's okay.
Yeah.
The ending is, I'm not going to ruin it for you because there's an incredible scene with Christoph Waltz and I forgot her name in a cafe, and it's one of the most, like, if you thought that opening scene was tense, just wait till you watch the cafe scene, and it's all dialogue, and you're just like at the edge of your seat. You're like, oh my God, what's going to happen? The great scene in the bar with all the American soldiers. I mean, there's just, the writing is impeccable. The acting is incredible. It's funny. But yeah, there's some graphic stuff that happens. Yeah. When you first meet the bastards, if you want to close your eyes during those sequences, it's fine. But that was one I think you have to experience because it essentially changes reality and it's a lot of fun to watch it. It changes history.
In his defense, he doesn't linger on the violence in the film, though.
That's right.
It's short and sharp.
Yeah, the dialogue is the king of this movie, and then the actors delivering those lines are all brilliant, and so I think you'll appreciate that. Does Jackie Brown at all? I don't think that's very gratuitous. It's a very good movie too. Jackie Brown. I'm trying to think of what else. Like Django is like, oh my Lord, it's just it's a difficult watch. It's, again, the writing's impeccable, the acting's incredible, but it's if you can't get through Pulp Fiction, you won't be able to also get through Reservoir Dogs. The only one that I don't like is The Hateful Eight. So, but if you can get through Bastards, I think you might appreciate it. I think you will, especially I can't ruin it for you because it's fantastic.
No, you can't say a lot about it.
You can't say anything, but it's also just brilliantly shot. Like Tarantino's style changes, and he goes into this kind of classic Hollywood mode later on in his movies. And his framing is ridiculous, and he rarely cuts. Like he will linger on a shot the way you should. Let the actors play in the frame. And it's just his work is incredible. Like, I mean, the last one he did, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, just looks beautiful.
But he knows how to space things out in that widescreen frame.
Yeah, like he's
stunning.
Like Spielberg early in his career was an incredible widescreen photographer, and I think he's absolutely. I think he's lost it. I think he knows how to still frame a shot, but there's something about framing for widescreen that 235.
Yeah,
Tarantino does it so well. I mean, so well. I think you'll appreciate just the craft behind Bastards, but the story is also compelling, very compelling, and the acting is unreal. And a lot of it is also in German, French. I'd say most of it's foreign language.
Yeah.
And Christoph Waltz can speak 5 different languages, but he is just, you watch him, you just want to watch an entire film with him. And that's why Django is so compelling, even though as violent as that is, it's just great to watch him act. He's so good.
And he won Oscars for Django and Inglourious
Correct.
Bastards.
Correct. Yeah. And so I would give Bastards a go. Again, remember, they're doing a lot of this stuff to Nazis. If you think about it that way.
And they're all SS Nazis too, right?
Sorry?
They're all SS officers, right?
Yeah, they're horrible
like the
people. Except for the actor. But he's kind of a dick too. So yeah, just think about them as awful Nazis, and they're getting what they deserve.
And you'll have a wonderful time.
Yeah, and have a wonderful time. And watch one of the weirdest cameos you'll ever see in your life. With Mike Myers is in it, and he's just so wrong. I don't know why he's in the film. And also a star of old from the 60s, Rod Taylor. Is in that same scene. Oh, that's right. That's right. It is an odd scene. It's really odd. I don't know why Mike Myers is in it, but he's doing that caricature thing. It's such a strange, he puts on a strange accent that doesn't feel right. He doesn't feel right in that movie. But anyway, it doesn't linger too long on that scene, but it's so odd, especially after what you've just witnessed. That whole opening sequence, which is flawless. I mean, literally flawless. Crazy movie. It's so good. So anyway, I got to feed my kids.
But Matthew Flynn, we are getting Star Trek 5. I just don't know when yet.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's an underrated movie, I think.
It's a very good Goldsmith score.
Very good.
Very good.
Sir Ian, you got any shows coming up this week? You posting anything?
I was thinking about doing a similar thing to the Vrez CD show off, but do an Entrada CD show off.
Nice.
Well, you got to do it, and then the others of us got to do it too.
Well, I'll tag you both, and then you can.
Right.
But yeah, Eric's video is going to be about 4 hours long with his Entrada collection.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the thing is about Entrada, I get a lot of that digitally now, so I don't have a lot of physical albums, but I can do Film Score Monthly. I had a lot of those. The Vrez one was interesting. Yeah, I couldn't pull out all the Vrez ones and try to get them back in the same spot. So
it's funny. It's funny because I missed out some. I thought I got them all, but I've got CDs all over the place, and I discovered some more. So
I found some more in the mods that I've had in the listening to that weren't in the video.
Here's the is the Star Trek Nemesis one the only one with the green spine? And the rest of them all have either white or the maroon colors?
I think so.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
That's this little strange tidbit.
Yeah.
Got Star Trek Nemesis on LP.
Oh my goodness.
And
is that the expanded or is it the original?
It's the only way I can get the expanded now without paying, like 3 figures.
Oh my God, really?
And it's Romulan blood green.
Does that sound good?
Yep.
Like, does it sound like when you print that Star stuff on vinyl, does it sound like crappy or is it?
Sounds, most LPs I have sound phenomenal.
Okay.
I don't know. We said I spent the money on an expensive record player and I got good speakers. The first record player I bought when I got into records was one of those Crosley suitcase things from Walmart.
Oh, no. I've heard so many bad things about that.
I'm like, this just doesn't sound right. I immediately took it back, and I did a lot of research, and like everyone kept saying the Audio Techniques is the one to buy. So I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I dropped $400 on one, and then I dropped $250 on the one that I keep in here at my work table. And I got these speakers at Best Buy. I think they were $150 for the set. They're bookshelf speakers. And I love this right here. The less expensive less expensive. It was still $250 record player and the 150 speakers. I like that more than the fancy setup I got out in the dining room by far.
Isn't there a whole kind of 2-hour prep thing with LPs though? You have to go into a clean room, that you have to clear out the static, you have to have people in white suits, put the actual LP on the turntable, and then you spend half an hour cleaning the record, and then you find a scratch on it and go and play a CD.
I walk by and I press the start button and it starts and it goes, and when it's done, it stops automatically, and I come back and I hit the start button again and it starts all over again.
Oh, that's too funny. It's too
and then
funny.
eventually I'll flip it over
ritual.
and start with the second side.
Yeah. I can't remember the last time I spun a CD, never mind an LP. And my goodness, yeah. Because everything's just digital. It's just the way I live. It's the way I wanted it. Like the moment they came out with an iPod, I was like, that's exactly what I wanted. I want everything just in the palm of my hand, and that's the way I wanted to listen. I just hated trucking, 10 CDs around in a bag, my Discman, or then when I got down to
batteries die,
MDs, yeah. So like the moment that iPod came out, my life changed for the better, and I just absolutely loved. I love digital music. I just love that I can just take it anywhere and everywhere I want, and it's just in a little tiny, package. Oh yeah, that was a dream come true for me.
I'm the same. I mean, I love CDs. I always get CDs, but I'll rip them as soon as I get them.
Yeah.
And it's all on there.
Yeah,
so
that's exactly it. I loved it. It was just my favorite thing. Like, the amount of that's what's so great about these playlists too. Because I remember I was creating MD mixes, and you'd only get like 78 minutes on it. But I thought that was just great. I could finally create like digital albums myself. But yeah, now I've got my favorites is like 1,400 tracks, and but every single one is a banger. And that's where we were talking about listening to music. I would just rather listen to that playlist over and over again, and instead of an album. I just know everything is great on there. But I did throw 3 tracks from Firebirds into that playlist the other day. It is so good. Highly recommend that one. If you guys don't have it, man, that's fun. It's like Silvestri's Abyss with Goldsmith's Hoosiers with Commando, like the Goldsmith, Horner, and that kind of Commando urban style. Just with some amazing orchestral music written over top of it. Holy smokes, what a score.
Speaking about Commando, did you want to come on for a Commando rewatch?
Oh yeah, I would love to come on for Commando.
Yeah, when we finish up different month, we're doing Arnold Schwarzenegger month. And
totally.
we're doing Commando, Predator.
Yes.
Conan. No, we did Conan, but I'm okay doing Conan again. But Boomer picked out 2 movies. I forgot what they were.
What's an underrated one is the it's called what's the one where he's a clone?
Sixth Day.
Sixth Day.
Seventh Day.
One of his last good ones.
The 8th Day. It's a day.
Sixth. Yeah.
Sixth Day.
I think that was one of his last real good movies. Yeah. We did Total Recall.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Kindergarten Cop. Let's go.
That was Randy Newman?
Randy Edelman.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got a nice theme in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that movie.
Did he do True Lies?
Ooh.
Not yet.
Yes. There it is.
Okay.
There's your winner. Yeah.
I really didn't like that film.
Really?
Oh, I loved it.
Oh.
And I'll explain why when we do the rewatch. It did not feel like it was up to James Cameron's standards.
Man, that whole Florida Keys action sequence is James Cameron awesomeness.
That's fine. I mean, I'm not talking about that scene. I'm talking about the whole movie.
Are you talking? Well, because it's more of a comedy, right?
I'm okay with comedy. It lost its way, like I guess in the middle, because he loses interest in the terrorist to go off to do this side thing with his wife.
That's so funny.
And like I was so used to just a strong female character with James Cameron films, and the wife was just kind of like, and I felt bad the way he was making her do that striptease thing. I'm like, I'm not comfortable with this. And
the thing is, that didn't bother me because it was just their relationship rekindling because they had nothing. And so this was a way for them to, I didn't see that Jamie Lee Curtis scene as exploitative at all. I literally thought that was a couple coming together and doing something that they've never probably ever done in front of each other,
or probably would have done.
or would have done, because they were just so square, right? They were just so bleh and ordinary, and they might have had that exciting relationship when they were younger, but it's just like everything took over. And so I think that's what works about that scene. And the thing is, Jamie Lee Curtis plays it so well, and the comedy is so good. Like when she slips off the bedpole, I died laughing at that sequence. But she's really good, and she plays it up really, really well. But then I like how the relationship just continues to rekindle even during all that action stuff. And I think that whole middle portion with Bill Paxton is just gold. Paxton was, I mean, he's just so off character there. But I mean, he's sort of like his character in Aliens, but just like ramped up a 200%. And he plays this sleazy, cowardly sales guy so perfectly. So yeah, it is a very different Cameron movie for sure. Absolutely. I mean, especially when you see everything coming, but I appreciate it for that.
I like the terrorists. It's like you're either buffoons or you're hardcore terrorists. And I had issues with that. Right. And like the action sequences, like the thing with the Harrier jet and the skyscraper, I'm like, that's cool. Yeah. But it wasn't quite clicking for me.
That's fair. Yeah. I love it.
Me too.
I think it's a great spy comedy. And I think so many people tried to replicate that as well during that time. Like right afterwards, you saw so many films that tried to, rekindle that, and it was impossible. And the fact that you're doing also with Arnold Schwarzenegger, like the fact that he actually had to play a character that is not necessarily Arnold Schwarzenegger. He had to actually act in this film. And that's much what I like about 6th Day as well. He's not just playing Schwarzenegger. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I like about True Lies. He had to play a father. He had to play a husband. Someone who cared. And I really appreciate it. Oh, and Arnold, what the hell's his name? His sidekick.
Tom Arnold.
Tom Arnold. He was great. So good in it. So, but yeah, I'd love to rewatch that with you. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I'm at 14%, which means I'm about to die. So everyone, adopt, don't shop. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week to do this all over again and talk about Batman.